It's here. It's big. And it's closer than you think. It's not a tournament. It's what you don't see on TV. The cash is real. The stakes are high. They bet big. They win big. They lose big. High stakes live action poker. Live at the bike. Watch it live on the web or play it if you dare at the Bicycle Casino right here in Los Angeles.
Hello everyone, welcome to Live at the Bike, brought to you by the Bicycle Casino in Los Angeles, California, the first and only webcast of real action cash game poker. My name's Bart Hanson, I'm here with Dave Tuckman. It's Tuesday night, we're going to do a little 5-5, 300 to 500, restricted buying, no limit hold'em. We've got a special guest in the game, Scott Huff, the host of The Circuit. If you head over to the cardplayer.com, you can check out The Circuit. It's a podcast that he does. He follows around the WPT Tour. And he's not a professional poker player, but, you know, he's playing more and more poker, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. I think he's already tripled up. We started the show at 6:30. It's been a half an hour. He might be up close to 1,500. So
something like that.
It's going to be an interesting night. We also have a buddy of his at the table that also writes for Card Player College.
Right.
So let's head over to the table here, and let's get into it, and let's introduce the players.
Did we get his last name? I know his first name is Joe.
Not
Maybe Donna can get his last name for me.
Well,
seat number 1, we've got George.
We've seen George on the
George
show
with
before.
the colorful blue hat.
Yeah.
Seat number 2, we've got Ed.
There's Ed.
And Ed also a regular. He's been on the show before.
Yep.
Seat 3, I've never seen this guy before. It's Gus.
Right.
I don't even think he changes. He wears the same clothes every Tuesday, too.
Yeah.
Seat number 4, we've got Sylvester. And Sylvester has not been on the show in quite a while. Always interesting to see Sylvester. Sylvester's one of those guys who plays really good poker for about 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, it's propensity to go on tilt.
Yeah, steaming factor's pretty high.
Yeah. Seat number 5, we've got Chris. And Chris I'm not familiar with at all.
Yeah, neither am I.
Interesting to see a new player on the show. Seat number 6, we've got Eric. Eric sporting a Sox hat.
Yeah, Red Sox hat.
Sox last I saw were tied 5-5
Yes.
anyway. Seat number 7, we've got Joe Stapleton. And Joe, like Bart said, he writes for Card Player College.
Yeah, and he prides himself, he was telling me before the show, he's not necessarily a good player. He actually started writing about poker about his home game.
Right, that's what he kind of does, a humor column for the college card player.
So, you know, he might donk it up a little bit. We'll go easy on him.
Yeah. We'll see. Seat number 8 is Cy. And who's had a special affinity for that name, Cy.
Yeah.
Seat number 9, we've got Scott Huff. And maybe we should start a little poll of like, hey, would you hit that?
Didn't talk to him about his girlfriend, that poll.
Yeah, I actually talked about that for a second. But Scott Huff, he's actually a really good writer. Also, like you said, he does The Circuit, which is the radio show.
Yeah, it's a podcast. Head over to cardplayer.com and check out The Circuit.
Yeah. And if
Very
you grab,
interesting show.
If you grab any random Card Player magazine, you'll usually see an article or two by Scott.
Look at this. Cy flopped the monster, and of course he checked the flop. Ace, King, 10 here. He flopped the straight with the flush draw.
Well, he's not trying.
Well, Joe is going to bet here. He's got top pair, and he's picked up the nut club draw.
Yeah, he's not out of the woods.
Is Cy going to raise here? This is just unbelievable. I was actually telling Scott about...
No,
he's
announced
going to
a
raise.
raise.
Okay. No, he called, and the button is going to raise. George is going to raise.
With nothing.
With nothing.
Oh, and George is saved. He's absolutely saved Joe. I mean, I'm sorry.
50 more, and you would assume now that when Joe calls that Cy, he's going to come over the top. But I got to tell you, I mean, we came midway through this hand. We'll always say that Cy pretty much misplayed this hand, but he's going to get his chips in, which makes it more likely that he'll play a hand like this again in the same manner.
Yeah, and George just bailed Cy out there. George figures, you know what, that guy was on a steal. And look, Joe gets rid of it. And it's a good laydown, it really is.
Absolutely.
The river was a king. And with one card to come, you just can't call ace 4 of clubs there. You've got to assume that your ace is no good, and probably 2 pair is no good. You're going to need a club and only a club. With one card to come, you don't have the odds.
As always, we like to keep the show interactive. You can email us at liveatthebike.com. You can also follow a live thread head over to 2plus2.com, go under Tournament Poker, World Poker Tour, etc. Official Live the Bike thread for April 25th. 3 days, 1 week away from Cinco de Mayo. Got the countdown in my head. Little Coronas and tequila. Now, Scott Huff, I mean, we'll get a chip count in here soon, but yeah, he, I think, wiped out 2 players before the show started.
Yeah, he flopped a straight and doubled up.
He told me that he is going to play pretty rocky, pretty tight tonight, so we'll see how that goes. And Scott will come in the booth towards the end of the show, and you'll have a couple words with him for a little bit.
It's always interesting. He usually conducts the interviews, and he's going to be interviewed. So
right.
Put the shoe on the other foot there. It's funny, I'm sorry, we're talking about Cinco de Mayo, and you were saying that it's interesting. I'm actually going to Vegas the following morning, playing a couple of playing a couple of tournaments down there. The Mirage World Poker Tour is going on.
So that means that you're not going to participate in Cinco de Mayo.
Of course I'll participate.
Let's take a look at a first chip count of the night now. Scott Huff, he's got 900. I thought he actually had more than that, but...
No, just doubled up once.
Okay, so we got almost 4,400 at the table. Let's take a look at the differences here from where these guys started. Scott's up about $400. Sylvester up 365. And a couple of other people are in the negatives here.
We'll keep track of that throughout the night. I'm in a good mood tonight. Got a haircut. Feeling kind of, feeling good.
Frisky?
I guess you could say frisky, yeah.
6-way action here. It's limped around, so it's a $25 pot. 10-9 deuce here with a couple spades.
Sylvester's open-ended. Gus has got the best hand, though.
Sylvester bets here. He's going to bet 25. Now, is Gus going to get involved here with top pair? You know, pretty low kicker. Doesn't have spades. But, you know, Gus knows that Sylvester is capable of betting draws. He's going to call, maybe see what happens here on the turn.
Well, if there's a safe card, that is it.
Yeah, turn's a deuce.
Deuce of clubs there. Get those cards up in a second for you. Board is 10-9 deuce deuce. Sylvester's got 7-8 in seat number 4, and he's thinking about what to do. He's first to act. He's open-ended here, and he's going to bet...
Yeah, he's going to bet 75.
75, and Gus has got top pair, not much of a kicker.
Weak
Actually,
kicker.
His kicker doesn't even play now.
Right.
He's got 10s and deuces with a 9 kicker in seat number 3.
There we go. The river has not come yet.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I tell you, if that is the river,
right,
that is phenomenal. We'll see.
And Gus is going to get rid of it. I mean, he really only has a bluff catcher there, Dave.
Yeah, and the river actually would have been the queen of clubs.
Yeah.
And, you know, Sylvester's game, one of the reasons I like it is he'll bet his draw like that, but let's say he flopped top 2 pair, or let's say he flopped the set, he might play it the same exact way.
Right.
Which makes it difficult.
Absolutely.
It's one of the ways I like to play my draws and my made hands.
Button's going to move over here to seat number 6.
Yeah. That's funny. I met Scott. I want to say I met Scott last year at the Legends of Poker during the media event. Really nice guy. And then I saw him again at the Hollywood Poker 1-year anniversary of the HollywoodPoker.com party.
Oh, okay.
James Wood's site. And I met his lovely girlfriend there as well.
Yeah. Seat number 1 here is going to raise to 25 here. He's got 7-3 of clubs. And I don't know if Eric is going to get involved. He's got an ace-7 here. Ace-7 offsuit. And George is going to take it down there out of C1. Hopefully, you know, and again, this is hopefully, you know, we actually might get part or all of this show up maybe on Card Player at some point so people can watch Scott Huff that aren't necessarily familiar with Live at the Bike.
Right, yeah, he was mentioning that maybe he can get a couple of snippets of his action.
Yeah.
Up in maybe the circuit section, but didn't really have a time frame for that.
Of course, Dave and I were on the circuit a couple of months ago at the end of the LA Poker Classic, end of January, right?
Yeah.
Interesting interview.
Interesting development of the circuit, by the way. Mattisau is gone.
Yeah. Scott Huff is going to open fold King Jack of clubs in second position, so he's going to play tight from up front.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind that fold, right? King Jack offsuit, out of position.
King Jack of clubs, he was suited.
Oh, he was suited?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Seat number 2 here is going to raise to 20 with pocket 9. Sylvester's going to call with the Queen Jack of diamonds here.
Hey, you can always look for an excuse to get out of the hand, out of position. I mean, I never really fault somebody folding out of position.
4-way action here. It's an $80 pot. Here we go to the flop. Wow, middle set here for Ed. He was the pre-flop racer. Now, nobody has an ace, and it's a rainbow board.
No, he's in good shape.
But I love flopping a set with an ace up there, Dave.
Oh, it's a dream flop. Especially when you raise and you get 3 callers, you assume one of your opponents has an ace. And I actually like the bet.
He's going to bet 20 real weak. You want somebody maybe to come over the top of him, I'm sure.
I like betting right into it, hoping that one of your opponents has the ace.
Yep. Now, unfortunately for him, no one has an ace, and he
No,
does
he
not
takes
show. And he takes it down there with a set of 9s.
Now, if you look at this table here, you got a couple of players that might give some action. You got Gus in seat 3, you've got Sylvester in seat 4, and you've got George in seat 1. All of which can make a move here or there.
I got to tell you, Dave, I was telling you before the show, nothing like sitting down in your first hand of a session like I did this afternoon and making about $1,000. We high-carded for the button. I got the small blind. I completed. It was limped around 6 ways. I completed with Jack 4 of hearts. Flop came Jack 10-4. I let out a guy called in the middle. And a guy from up back raised. Both of those guys only had 500. I re-raised. Guy in the middle called. The guy from up back moved all in. And I was like, at this point, boy, if he's got Jack 10, he's got Jack 10. Both players call. One guy's got the nut flush draw. The other guy turns over pocket kings. He limped in from the cutoff and went broke.
You said the turn came a Jack?
Yep.
And doubled you up, huh?
$25 raise here by Sylvester. And Sai is going to call.
Now, Sai's calling out of position with 8-9 of spades. Now, this is a hand where if you're going to call with a suited connector like this against a player like Sylvester, no problem, but you really want to be in position against him. Now, Sylvester's top, he's flopped the best hand. He has got top pair. He's got queens and 10s with an ace kicker. Now, Gus has got the flush draw, and he looks like he's going to bet right into him. Now, Gus is betting the flush draw. Now, would Gus bet a 10 here? That's the question. Because Sylvester can beat any other queen, and obviously he can beat a flush draw. Now, sometimes if you have a flush draw like this, you can beat, let's say Sylvester had king, queen, or king, queen, jack. Your ace is an overcard, but in this case, your ace is not the overcard.
And Sylvester's going to raise.
Yeah, he's going to put pressure on him right away.
He's going to make it 100 more here.
Board is a little too connected for him to, just slow play it. If a 9 comes out, a jack comes out, a king comes out, you really don't know where you're at. Obviously, the club comes out, he's dead. He's going to define his hand right now. Now, the only question now, if Gus were to play 10s the same way, and Gus moved all in right now, would Sylvester fold?
Well, that is the question.
Yeah. Oftentimes, if you're against a pretty tight player, and you play a 10 the same way as you play a flush draw, and you move in here, it's really a tough spot for Sylvester. Remember, you're not just moving in with nothing. You're moving in, you've got an escape hatch there. If you get called, hey, you've still got outs. And Gus is not going to get involved.
And, Gus does not get involved, and Sylvester folds.
Throws it away. Now, when you read Super System 1, if you ever read that, and I always tout that book, Doyle Brunson's first book about No Limit Hold'em, he often touts betting that hand. And if you get raised, he has no problem pushing all in. And he wants to let people know that he has no problem moving in with those kind of hands. And he really likes, what he likes to do is he likes to put his opponents to the test with a hand as weak, as marginal as ace-queen in that case.
Live straddle here by seat 1, so it's going to be $10 to call. It's coming out of George's hand. Scott Huff has got the big blind.
And he's got a 6-4 diamonds in the big blind.
Let's see if he completes here. If it gets limped around, he's going to put one more chip in.
And for one more chip with that hand, it's out of position. You never like to play that hand out of position, but one more chip, why not?
Well, we get a raise here by $30 raise here with ace-jack offsuit. Scott gets rid of the 6-4 of diamonds.
Yeah.
And again, that is a raise that usually is not well advised because it's not necessarily going to knock anyone out. Once one player calls, everyone's going to call behind you. It's a very difficult hand to play out of position. Ace-jack offsuit.
Of course, he's got the best hand. He's got almost everybody dominated, but how does he know that?
Well, ace-4 deuce here, all spades. That is not a great flop for ace-jack facing 3 opponents, I got to tell you.
No, it's not at all. You got to realize that if you're raising with ace-jack offsuit, you might get smooth called by ace-queen.
Right. And he checked it. Jack 6 checks. And Gus checks the other ace. And it's over to Eric, and he checks.
Wow.
Now the turns is 7, and ace-jack is still the best hand here.
And now he's going to put some money in.
Now he's going to bet.
45.
It's kind of a weak bet, huh?
45 into about a $120 pot.
Yeah.
And Gus is going to call.
Yeah, and Gus is in kicker problems here. He needs a 10 and only a 10. If the board pairs, it will not help him.
That's right. Now, might Gus be able to use a spade as a scare card here? Well, the river's a 6, and ace-jack has escaped.
Yeah.
And it looks like Sai's going to throw a little blocking bet out here. Going to bet
Kind of a pseudo
60.
Pseudo blocking, pseudo value bet.
You bet 60 into a pot that is about
What, 200?
210, 210, 220.
Man, I mean, if so the pot now is $270, 60 to call.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting more than 4 to 1 on your money. I mean, you almost have to call if you're Gus, don't you? Really puts Gus in a tough spot.
I mean, again, a good player. Can they sense it out? But you would think that Gus probably would have put money in if he had flopped the flush. And Gus just calls, and that defensive bet works on the river. And ace-jack is going to take it down there.
Yeah.
One up the kicker on Gus.
Problem is, in a game like this, I mean, do you really want to make money trying to make moves on players?
Right.
If Gus then makes it 150 more, I know it puts Sai to the test, but does Sai get away from ace-jack there?
Right. I don't know if, I mean, Sai might have been content to get away from it on the flop. It was interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's funny, that's one of those spots where I'm not sure Gus can get, at that point on the river, I'm not sure if Gus can get a better hand than his out of the hand
Right.
to fold. I had a really, really interesting hand last night while I was playing 10-20 limit, 20-20 no limit, that is. I was playing in a game with Bert and Alan and a bunch of other characters. And I just actually, I'm in the middle of typing up my blog, and it's basically, it is my next blog.
Okay.
So everybody check it out. It should be up in the next, say, 3 or 4 hours.
Ace-queen here in the big blind, and Joe is going to raise with ace-queen here from the cutoff. He's going to make it 25 to go. Joe Stapleton, he writes for Card Player College. Looks like a smooth call here from George.
Yep. Actually,
wait
no,
a minute, he's going to re-raise.
Yeah, looks like he's made it 50.
He's going to re-raise the minimum. Interesting. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, he's trying to represent maybe an overpair, and like he wants a call here.
And I don't terribly mind a play like that sometimes with an overpair, because what it does is that, I mean, an overpair like 9s or 10s, what it does is it gets rid of everybody else, and it gets heads up with the original raiser.
And since the original raiser has the same hand, chances are both players are going to miss, and they do. Jack 6-9 here.
But George was the aggressor pre-flop, and you wonder if his aggressive nature now is going to take it down. And he's going to bet into Joe, and it really puts Joe in a tough spot now. This guy's re-raised me, and he's betting out into me, and I can't beat anything. Certainly not a good flop for ace-queen. And Joe's going to get rid of it. Joe Stapleton gets rid of it. Can't blame him there at all.
No. So that pre-flop aggression, like you said, allows George to take down the pot.
Yeah, it puts you in a tough spot there. I mean, George plays it like that, and oftentimes if you have a real hand in Stapleton's spot in seat 7, you can just smooth call.
Right.
No need to re-raise it and kind of reveal the strength of your hand.
So the button's going to move over here to Scott Huff in seat number 9. We haven't really seen him play a hand yet. Again, he won a lot of money before the show started.
Right.
He's picked up 3-4 offsuit here on the button. Sai's going to make a little $15 raise here. Now, Scott is going to fold. I got to tell you, against Sai, I might call there on the button. 15, I love calling with like those little live go cards, Dave,
right.
you know, on the button. But he gets away from it, so Scott's going to play pretty straightforward. King 7-8 here. Looks like pocket 5s might be the best hand here. Let's see if Sai can continue to be the pre-flop aggressor. He's going to bet 35.
Well, seat 2 is actually betting. Ed is betting $35.
Yeah, Ed's going to bet 35.
Kind of
with
a
pocket
feeler
fives.
little bet here. And George is calling with 8 deuce. I mean, I'm amazed George actually called pre-flop. I know he's in the small blind, but he's got 8 deuce offsuit. And now George is going to check, and is Ed going to continue betting? If Ed fires another big bet here, I think George gets away from it, but they both check it. And the river's a 3.
And the river's a 3.
And Huff would have made 2 pair if he actually got there. And George is now going to put a bet in.
George is going to throw a bet out.
Yeah. Now, the only question here is George betting for value? I mean, does he really think he can get a king out? Maybe he thinks he can get called by a 7, or in this case, pocket 5s. Well, he didn't get called, and he wins the pot.
Yeah.
I always like to point out there is value in betting. There is value in not showing your hand.
Button's going to move over here to seat 1.
Once again, we're live at the bike, folks. I'm David Tuckman here at Bart Hansen.
Playing a little 5-5 no limit, 300 min, 500 max. Really the best
Gotta love it.
restricted buy-in game in town. I always wonder, I got to tell you, our friend Nicole Pepe, who did some commentary on the show, she was playing here. And she plays at one of the other casinos a lot. She's no longer a prop. She was playing in the 5-10 game, which is an uncapped game. I think it was Monday night, Dave.
Yeah, I saw
Friday
that.
night, and she bought in for 500. They didn't say anything to her, but I mean, she might be accustomed to the 5-10, 500 max game at a different casino, but still, why?
Yeah, I don't see why you'd handicap yourself like that. Why you only want to play? Why would you want to buy into a game where you can only have 50 times the big blind when you can play in this game and have 100 times the big blind?
Now, George
Makes
raised
no
it
sense.
pre-flop, and he's going to continuation bet, and Ed is going to call with bottom pair here. He called pre-flop with 3-5 of hearts. The turn's a 10, and now George has picked up the best hand. Might George check here on the turn? Well, now Ed is going to lead. Now, I don't know exactly what that 10 might have changed unless he's trying to bet out, maybe not have George get a free card here with spades, and George calls. And the river is a spade.
And I got to tell you, if Ed puts in a big bet here, I don't think George can call.
Obviously, everyone always gives credit for the pre-flop raiser having ace-king. You can't beat that. You can't beat spades. This is Ed I'm talking about. But if Ed bets here, obviously there isn't much that George can beat either.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good spot to bluff, but you know what? It's always tough to bluff when you think you might be bluffing into the nuts.
Well, Ed checks, and now it's a question for George. Does George think he needs to bet to win?
That's it.
And they just check it down.
Yeah, and
ace
George
10
takes
is going
it.
to take it down.
Takes down with ace-10 there. Take it down, Mr. Brown.
Button's going to move over here to C2. If people are emailing us, we're having a little bit of trouble with the email right there, but we're going to hopefully get that fixed. So
Yeah.
we're not responding to you. We're
No,
just
I was
having a
playing with
little
the
bit of
computer.
trouble.
Anytime I get near a computer, I think
Well, it was working right before the show. I checked all the emails.
it's always me. So this is the game, actually, I put my wife in. Melissa played in this game a little while ago, Friday. And this is the game that if she comes down, I'm going to put her in this game.
Oh, cool.
Because it's a great game.
Yeah.
Like you always talk about, it's a great structure.
Yeah.
And for somebody who knows how to play, somebody who plays well post-flop, it really is a good game.
Queen Jack of Diamonds here for Sylvester. He's in the big blind, and we still have not seen Scott Huff play a hand yet. Said he was going to play it real tight.
He's not lying.
Yeah.
Well, the nature of No Limit Hold'em, you don't have to play very many hands to be a big winner.
I hate fighting for $10.
Now, Gus is raised here with pocket tens out of the blind. Sylvester calls, and everyone calls behind there, 8, 9, and Jack 9. So we've got about a $120 pot here going.
Well, there's an 8.
8, 4, 3. Is Ed going to get involved? Gus has got an overpair, and Gus checked it. He checked it. Maybe he's going for the check raise here.
Well, it looks like it.
And Ed is going to bet here. He's going to bet 60 with 8, 9.
He's on the button. Hey, I got to tell you, you'd probably bet 8, 9 there too on the button.
Absolutely. Why not?
Now, the only problem with Gus's hand here now is he's going to end up committing an awful lot of chips with an overpair, and I guess he doesn't mind that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, just check that puppy, did you?
And at this point, is Ed committed? The pot is going to be about $400. Actually, the pot is about $380, $125 to call. So you're getting about 3 to 1 on your money. You've got a pair. There's really no draw out there, so you've got to almost put Gus on a bigger 8, or you can put Gus on an overpair. You almost, in this case, you actually hope that he has an overpair, and that way an 8 is also good. Ed is about a Ud. That's great. Ud's a 4 to 1 dog. Not quite getting enough to call this, but it's about. I mean, it's real close with what the pot is laying him.
Call?
And he's going to call this.
I knew it was 9 to 10.
And Ed correctly said, guys, what do you have, 9s or 10s? And the turn is a king of clubs, the river's a 5 of clubs, changes nothing, and Gus is going to double through. Takes down about I want to say about a $425 pot.
Oh, he's so sure that somebody's going to bet.
Yeah.
Check that.
Thank you, Gus.
And I tell you, I mean, Gus was really flirting with disaster there, you know. If for some reason Ed did not bet it, or let's say the flop, Ed didn't actually have an 8 there, and it checks around, the king on the turn really kills Gus's hand.
Plus, he knows it helps that I'm on this side. And he knows I'm going to bet on every other pot. So that bigger risk.
Button moves over to Gus in seat 3. Small blind $5 at Sylvester. Small blind, big blind $5 is Chris. And Eric is under the gun. He's not going to play. Stapleton's not going to play. Si's going to play. Scott Huff is not going to play. I got to say, I really enjoyed the interview we had with Scott. Like you said, we had about an hour-long interview with him right at the end of the LA Poker Classic on the circuit, where we talked about everything from no limit hold'em to propping to difference between tournaments and cash games. Good interview. Check it out at cardplayer.com. Go to the circuit.
Yep.
King 8 deuce here. Chris has got a he's got top pair, and he's going to bet $20 into the pot. Oh, Ed's going to call. Ed has second pair at the ace kicker. It turns to 3. It changes nothing. The pot's about $70. And what do you do if you're Ed here? Ed's going to put another little bet out here. It's kind of a
40.
cautious little blocker bet here. It's a $40 bet, and Ed is going to call again with ace-8. And Ed needs an ace or an 8. Queen on the river is not going to change anything. And if you're Chris, do you put out one more little blockish bet out there? Now it's going to check down. Ed's not going to fire at it. Chris takes down with a weak king and takes down what ends up being about a $130 pot.
Interesting post here on 2+2 by Surf and Illini. He says, Barton Tuck, do you think the 3-5 game or the 5-10, I assume Surf and Illini is talking about the 5-5, 3-5 game, 5-5 blinds, 305
Right.
is tougher than the 5-10 game
Notice how she took the
at the
candy
bike?
with
It depends on the lineup, but
Obviously,
generally
it's gonna
speaking,
depend
I
on
would
the
say
lineup.
the, generally speaking on any given day, I'd probably say the,
Take it away.
The
I would say-
the
I would
5-5 game is full of kind of a grinder type thing.
I would say on the weekdays,
Yeah,
the $500 game,
yeah,
when I say 5-10 blind game,
right.
is probably weaker on weekdays.
Yeah.
On weekends, Friday
Especially
and Saturday,
weekend nights.
weekend nights,
Right.
especially tournament time,
Yeah.
I say the 3-5 game, the game we're watching tonight, is weaker.
Now, you like to thrive on maybe a table like this where there's kind of weak, tightish play, where you're really the aggressor and really, drive the action.
Well, I mean, you and I both obviously would advocate you've got to be able to change your game
Right.
according to the game that you're playing in.
Now, you were beginning to say, because we had an email here from
230.
Ben Powell talking about how Manasau left the show, and I'm sure you'll ask Scott about that when
Yeah.
he comes into the booth.
He was in there
Got a
before.
$30 raise here with Jack 10. And a call here by seat number 2. And we're heads up here. Jack 10 against 6-7 of spades. George brought this one in with Jack 10. Queen 3-4 here. Well, Ed's got a gut shot straight draw to the 5, but he has 2 spades. And George is going to bet 30, and Ed's probably going to be done with this, Dave. Let's
I would
see.
assume so, but, well,
Well, he's going to make the call. Wow.
Ed has been making some really questionable calls. You wonder,
Yeah.
he called up his chips with 8-9 against Gus, doubled him up. Then he basically gave $100 to Chris with second pair, and
look
now
at
he's
this.
moving all in.
George is going to check, and he made a pair, and Ed makes the call, and George beats him in the pot here with Jack 10. George does not believe he has a queen. Maybe he thinks he's got a diamond draw. And Ed needs a 5 and only a 5 here. And the river's a king.
Yeah, not
and
gonna do
George
it.
probably thinks he's beat here. I mean, what can he beat out there?
Of course.
But Jack 10 is good. And if you're paying attention to the game, you've got to pay attention to the fact that Ed cannot beat Jack 10 here. And the diamond did come on the river. So what exactly...
I mean, you have to put him on 5-6, right? I mean, you'd assume he has
guess.
5-6.
Yeah, an offsuit 5-6 maybe.
It's the only thing you can assume there. Hey, if you have any questions for Scott Huff, now Scott Huff has been following the tournament circuit for quite a while now, writing for Card Player for over a year, doing a heck of a job. If you have any questions for him, email them in, and if I get a chance to, I'll ask him kind of the best 2 or 3.
Yeah. Got a lot of responses last night. We'd like to keep the show interactive as always. And it was almost more people that said, keep the limit night, Dave. Got an email here from Tom Armour. I think he's a new emailer. He said, stumbled across the show 8 weeks ago. You guys do a great job. So thank you very much. We got a little $15 raise here by Cy with Jack 4 spades. We have still yet to see Scott Huff play a hand yet. Seat number 1 is he's gonna make a re-raise with Ace King offsuit here, Dave.
Well, remember, it's not a tournament. You don't have to play a lot of hands. You don't really
Right.
have to mix it up. You don't have to accumulate chips. Remember, in this game especially, the blinds are only 5-5.
Yep.
Right now, Scott Huff has probably, 180 times the blinds?
Right.
I mean, he's in no rush to play hands.
And I think that Cy's going to get away from it. And I said, there's nothing wrong with Scott playing it tight, just like any other playing it tight. But I think you leave something on the table sometimes when you don't call like a $15 raise when you're deep and size deep, with even a hand like 3-4 offsuit on the button. I think you do leave a little bit on the table. You leave on the table the possibility of a big hand coming.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you start thinking of all the positive EV
Right.
situations that are out there, when we say positive EV, it's expected value.
Yeah.
Obviously, playing it purely ABC
Yeah.
tight, you're definitely leaving something on the table.
Right. And you can definitely play that hand, as, play it as a winning player that way. I just think you might win more. Look at this, Chris has got pocket rockets in seat 5, pocket jacks for Cy here, and he might not give credit. I got to tell you, if I had jacks and a button cutoff razor comes in, I might come over the top here in the small blind.
You might. You very well might.
Yeah, we had this situation happen before, a couple whale games ago. And if Cy does come over the top, you might just smooth call if you're Chris with aces here, especially if both you and Cy are deep, because you might give somebody with jacks and
Yeah.
queens off the hook. But now you
And I think
got
Cy
call in
needs to
between.
raise this. And Cy is going to raise this up.
He's going to raise it up here. Now the issue for me is, even though there's a third player in here, Dave, Joe from Card Player College only has 100 left. I still think you might be able to play this tricky, although I can see that Chris really isn't all that deep now either. He only's got about 400 left.
No, I get it. And he's going to move all in. Wow.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I probably smooth call that. I don't mind if Joe calls in
Right.
between either. I probably smooth call that, let him vet out, and then I move all in. That way I ensure all the money's going in.
Right.
See, once again here, we've talked about it. Chris has given Cy
and
an out.
Absolutely.
He's let him off the hook. And if Cy is paying attention,
And we talked about
easy lay down.
We talked about it. And what an advanced laydown. I forget the gentleman that laid down kings preflop, the first ever on Live with the Bike, when aces let him off the hook.
Kevin.
Because if you got now again, people might play devil's advocate. Well, what if a king or a couple paint cards come out and doesn't give Cy a set? He might just be able to get away from it. But he is forced to lead out in the flop. And if it's only one overcard, probably a queen or rags, he's going to pot commit himself on the flop, and you're going to get all his money in here with jacks.
Well, the funny thing is, even if the board comes out king, queen, blank, say if you're out of position, I like pushing with my aces.
Right.
But in position there, even if the board comes out king, queen, blank, you talk about it, Cy is first to act.
Right.
He's probably going to put out some sort of weakish little bet out there no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more money you can make off him.
Then see what happens after.
I mean, I guess the other thing you can do is you can raise it minimum. But I want to get more money in the pot, and look at that now. And Cy gets away from it,
No good.
and Chris pretty much makes the minimum on that hand.
And I love sometimes smooth calling with aces when you're deep. I also might bring in a raise in the cutoff with 9-7 of spades. And you're also going to smooth call that if you're deep against
Exactly.
a blind raiser. And it's really difficult to put that guy in position on a hand.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Now let's say for example, Cy makes it 100 to go, and you're deep stack, and you smooth call with aces, but you also smooth call with 9-7 of spades, and you also smooth call with jacks.
Right.
Well, now the question is, when the board comes out 9 high, and he bets into you, and you raise all in, what do you have this time?
Right.
Do you have the aces, or do you have the 9-7, or do you have the jacks?
Right.
Really puts him to the test.
Or, I mean, probably a move that you might move in on is, say, 9 high with maybe 2 spades.
Well, depending on how much money you have.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
the guy's already committed. Hey, why not?
And again, Cy got let off the hook.
And obviously Joe wanted to see a flop there with deuces, but got priced out of it.
And Joe is going to move all in here. He's on the short stack. Couple straddle callers.
I like it.
And he's got ace-king. He's going to play a little short stack poker here. I don't mind the play.
Well, there's $35 of dead money in the pot. He figures maybe he can pick it up, and who knows, maybe somebody will foolishly call him with ace-jack or ace-queen.
He's hoping to grow it.
And he picks himself up $35 there, and he does not show. Hey, nothing wrong with that at all.
I don't know if Joe is planning to rebuy, but I always think if you're going to rebuy, you might as well rebuy as opposed to play $100 in this game. I don't know what his plan is for the night.
Right.
Scott
I mean,
Huff actually told me if he went bust, he wasn't going to play.
No, okay.
Post here by F. Gator. F. Gators on 2+2. Play a hand, Scott Huff, you woman. We have not seen Scott Huff play a hand here tonight.
Well, he hasn't really gotten much. I mean, we're only about 20 minutes into the show,
Yeah.
25 minutes into the show. Hasn't gotten much of
There's
anything.
Scott's hand, ace-10 offsuit here in the small
But
blind.
once again, it's in the small blind. If
Yeah.
you take any heat there, is that a hand you really want to play out of position?
Right.
I mean, we see some of the best poker players in the world on this show, Sometimes they play 3 or 4 hands the whole night.
$500 to it. I watch that every day. And then we can see it again tomorrow.
Steve the Face Flicker, a Tommy Huffnagel-esque type deal.
Exactly. And you got to realize, especially in this game here, if Scott doesn't play a hand until 8:30,
Yeah.
and then he plays a hand, now he probably shouldn't get any action.
And Scott easily folds the ace-10 here to a one-off the cutoff raise with queen jack.
I don't mind that at all.
Now, Ed is going to call with king 10 here in the blind. You can kind of tell the contrasting styles here. Well, ace king 3 here. Now, Ed's got a straight draw. Ed actually is middle pair. Eric's got a gut shot here to the Broadway straight, and he's going to make a continuation bet.
Now, we always talk about a hand like ace.
And Ed gets out of there.
Yeah. We always talk about a hand like ace-10 there. Now, you're either going to win a small pot or lose a big one.
Right.
And it's just really tough to know where you're at there, out of position with
I don't know how
ace-10.
good it will be this week.
The funny thing is, if Scott was in there with ace-10, maybe decided to check call, we've all seen, you know, a 10 coming on the turn, giving Scott aces up, and giving Eric a Broadway straight, and those are the hands where you lose a lot of money, right?
He's certainly not going to make a lot of money in the hand. I mean, maybe he calls, and the turn comes out at blank.
Yeah.
He checked, the other guy checks. The river, maybe he bets, and the guy throws it away.
Yeah.
You're not going to make any money.
Oh, how about the river's a 10? He bets, the guy
Moves
raises.
all in, and
Yeah,
you're committed.
yeah.
I'm with you.
Now, Scott Huff's got king-queen offsuit here.
Now, this is on the button. Now, this is a hand you can definitely play on the button.
Yeah.
And depending on who comes in, you can play it pretty aggressively. And I think it's a clear raise here. And I'm assuming he is going to raise, and he does. He makes it.
He's going to make it 25 to go here, Tuxter.
Yeah, well, he asked me what. He asked before the show. He asked me, Tuxter? You just call me Tuxter? Anyway, he asked me, he goes, what's a normal raise? Is 25 good? And I go, yeah,
Yeah, that's
25,
good for
30,
this game.
35, right in that range.
Now, George makes a pretty loose call here. I mean, not necessarily paying attention to the player. Scott's played as tight as anybody. Makes a call with ace-8 of clubs in the small blind. And he's going to re-raise with pocket 5s. Wow.
I tell you, talk about no respect. And this is what I was pointing out before.
Yeah.
I said that you probably should not give Scott Huff any action. He hasn't played a hand in a half hour, yet you can look at the action he's getting.
Yeah. I mean, that is, we were laughing about, oh, that's a tournament move, some of the donkish moves we saw last night. That's a tournament move right there.
Is that a tournament move?
I
Hold
mean,
on.
yeah,
Let me
you
get
can
my
write
pad and
that one
paper
down
out.
on your pad and paper.
I gotta write that out.
Me?
Hold on. Tournament move. Yeah, and Ronnie's confirmed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Tournament move.
Yeah.
And Ed.
Ed takes
Well,
it
hey,
down.
Ed had the best hand here.
But remember, and the reason why we say that might be a tournament move is because when the blinds or antes are high, and there's a lot of dead money in the pot, that can be a profitable move with 5s if you put a guy on a button steal, and you know maybe he's deep enough to get away from the hand if he doesn't have much of anything. Problem here is it's a cash game. Scott Huff's committed 25 and George has called 25. So you are committing almost half of your stack to win 50 in dead money with pocket 5s out of position.
Right.
You know, it's just...
Yeah, a lot of good players won't put up with that, and they'll just call you, and then they'll see what you do. Now what do you do? Really puts you in a tough spot if you get called.
Now, people are asking on the thread, how did Scott double up? And I think a gentleman raised.
He flopped a straight, I think.
He flopped a straight, and Scott actually had top pair and a flush draw. And I think Scott moved in and caught a heart on the turn, I believe.
Oh, I thought Scott flopped a straight.
No, I think it was the other way around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
20 more.
Oh, okay, Scott did flop a straight. I'm getting worried.
And the other
Okay.
guy moved in on a flush draw and didn't hit it, obviously.
Now, Gus is raised out of the big blind with queen jack. Chris limped in with ace. And Chris calls in position. Ace 10-5 here. Well, if Gus continues on here, he's probably going to take it down.
Well, Gus is actually not in bad shape at all. I mean, he can catch a queen, a jack,
Well, he
or a
checks.
king.
He checks. And let's see what Chris is going to do here.
See, I think heads up here. You got to put a little continuation bet out there, and Chris does.
He's going to bet 30. Now, Gus is pretty good at reading players. Does he sense kind of a little weakish bet here? Is he going to get involved? He does have a gut shot in overcards.
Yeah, you wonder. I mean, Chris looked a little uncomfortable there putting that money in the pot. I pride myself on physical tells. Oh, I've got to read that article, by the way.
Gus calls. Turns an ace. Gus checks. Let's see if Chris can put some more money in here.
Yeah, I like one more bet here.
He's going to bet 50.
And you know what? And look at that. It's going to take it down. And if by chance Gus calls you again, well, then you can check the river, obviously.
You know, it's always interesting. I pointed it out on the show before, and this is one unique situation. When you were playing heads up, again, in position against a blind raiser, a guy that is raised in the blind, an ace really is a premier scare card because there aren't... Now, Gus, he will raise with his ace-kings and his ace-queens, but a lot of guys won't.
Right.
So they might be raising with a high pocket pair, and they don't like that ace. It's a scare card that you can use. We had a post here by Boondoggle on 2+2, and he has posted a lot. Thanks for the post. He said, it was obvious from last night that most people do not want a limit game. Perhaps the 300-600 limit game would be good. Most people did not appreciate last night, and it was obvious. Now, again, thank you for the post, but I got to disagree with you. I went through all the emails, Dave, and all the posts, and more people said that limit once a week was fine, and they enjoyed it.
Right.
So I don't really know where it's coming from. That
Yeah, we got about
it's
100 emails.
appreciated.
And I'd say out of the 100 emails
Yeah.
we got, maybe 15 did not like it at all.
Right.
The vast majority of them said, we prefer no limit, but one night a week, we want limit.
Right. An Eastern Bloc here said, the opinions expressed by Boondoggle are most certainly the exact thoughts of every single member of 2+2 and all the viewers of Live at the Bike.
Well, it's good to know that Eastern Bloc is representing all the viewers.
Yeah.
That's good. You know what? I was kind of hoping that we would have one unified voice.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that Eastern Bloc is that one unified voice. From now on, we'll just ask him all the questions.
Yeah.
Raise,
Got a $30 raise here, one off the cutoff by George. Looks like he's got a queen 10 of hearts
Someone
here.
else always does that.
And the emails that we read last night were not bogus emails, by the way, either.
No, you guys have been good to me.
I love the one email. The one email from some guy said, you guys just put limit hold'em up there for your own interests.
right, yeah.
Yes. So smart, so right.
And again, David will ask Dukes writing in, why did Manasau leave the circuit? And Scott actually has some views about that. I actually asked him before the show.
Yes. He does.
And I think Gavin Smith and Joe Seabach do a great job now, kind of taking over.
Yeah, Mel Gavin's he's obviously
Yeah.
a great poker player in his own right. Joe's obviously a great poker player. Both well spoken.
Got a $30 raise
I'm
here.
getting scared.
Do like this.
This is usually
Oh, no,
when
It's
you-
funny, you know,
I thought someone said 30, but
there was like a month long, there was about a month where we could not get a limit game up. And everybody was emailing us bitching because we
Right.
couldn't get a limit game up.
Right.
Now we finally put a limit game up and everybody bitches.
Now Gus is going to raise. Well, not everybody, just kind of one or
Right.
two people.
Wrong number.
And that's why, hey, we want to have the show interactive. Gus raises with kings here, and George is going to call him out of position, not that deep, with Jack 8 of spades. 7-7-5 here on the flop.
Well, it's a great flop for Gus. I mean, George needs runner something.
Now this is the power again. I assume this is going to go check full, but I want to keep this board up here. Gus is going to make the continuation bet with the overpair.
85.
That's 85 here.
Yeah?
I assume George is going to fold this. This is the power here of if you were George and you had 8-9 of diamonds or 6-8 of diamonds, or even ace-6 of diamonds or overcards and diamonds. If you bet into that flop and Gus raises you and you come over the top and you would do the same thing with the 7, what does Gus do? Also, I got to tell you, it handcuffs somebody who knows that you would bet out with trips because they might just call there with kings, kind of giving you your price on the flop for your draw, right?
Right, totally. It's a much stronger move than check raising.
Yeah.
By betting into somebody with a draw or trips, you're forcing your opponent to commit a lot of chips.
Yeah.
Now, when you check raise, you are committing a lot of chips.
Yep. Email here from Rick Hickman in Ohio. Thanks a lot. Says he loves the circuit, loves Live at the Bike.
But once again, if you have any questions for Scott Huff of the circuit, email them in to us,
Yep.
and we'll pick the best 3 or so, and we'll ask them.
Limped around here 3 ways. Ace-6, Ace-6, and Queen-4. 10-3-8 here with a couple of spades.
And everybody's missed this one.
Checked around. Turns a jack. Still hasn't helped anybody here.
No, ace high is still good, and both players have it. And, well, Sai is going to bet. He's got a queen high, and he's got a gut shot straight draw. He needs a 9 to win this pot. He can actually also catch a queen or a 4, but he's going to win it with the bet. Take it down. Earn himself a pot.
Interesting email by Jake M. And he's talking about when you're counting your outs, do you ever take away an out and say your opponent has one of your outs? And the example he gave was, say you had ace, queen of hearts.
Right.
And the flop came out 9-8 deuce with 2 hearts. Do you take away one of your outs because the possibility of this guy having pocket queens or pocket kings you take away one of your outs, meaning the queen is no good. And it's a great question there, Jake, and I definitely think that has to come into your mind when you're pricing out pot odds and such.
Yeah, of course, in the sense that depending on, obviously, the first step to counting your outs is putting your opponent on a hand.
Right.
And then trying to figure out, okay, well, do I have overcards and a flush draw? In that case,
Right.
I'd be 15 outs. If you could put the guy on pocket aces,
Yeah.
well, then all you have is 9 outs, flush
Right.
draw. Obviously, yeah, the most important thing is to put your opponent on a hand.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what they have. And you can figure out what they have by, their history, how they've played the hand, have they raised, what position they're in, so forth and so on.
Get a raise here by Sai. He's made this raise a couple times with Jack 5 of spades. That might be kind of a favorite hand of his. And George is going to call him with 10-5, so we got a couple loose players at the table here.
Jackson 5.
Jack 5 against 10-5. King 4 deuce. Well, Sai's got a flush draw, and he's going to lead out here.
It's funny, when you're calling a raise with 10-5, you'd think, okay, well, if I probably have at least one live
Look at this.
card.
George is going to call. He's going to be setting up some sort of play here. I mean, if the spades that he's trying to represent are in Sai's hands. Now, the turn's a king. So George is definitely a mover and a shaker. Check here by Sai. And I assume George set up the call on the flop to bet here on the turn if it was checked to him, and he does. Usually you don't have this amount of chips to do this in this game here, Dave.
And Sai's going to call. The funny thing is, you look at George's hand and you go, well, at least he has live cards. No, the 5 isn't live. How does a 5 not be live?
And the river's an 8, and I got to say that it's probably going to go check, bet, fold. So George, with some nice post-flop aggression, is probably going to take this one down.
Now, can I ask you something? Now, George wins the hand. Now, George just called the flop. George is a pretty aggressive player. Don't you think George probably would raise the flop if he had a king? Which would suggest that he has a pocket pair. Man, I mean, it's interesting the way he played that hand. It really is. Button moves over to Sai in seat 8. Small blind is Scott Huff. Big blind is the aforementioned George. And Ed is under the gun. He's first to act. He's not going to play, it doesn't look like. Nope. Folds around. Action is over to Eric. He's going to put a little bit of a raise out there. He's got Queen Jack offsuit. And I don't mind that raise at all. He's kind of in like sort of latish position, buying himself the button, and he does. Especially against it. And look at that. Wow. Well, Scott Huff is going to play a hand here. He's going to call the raise with 6-4 of hearts in the small blinds. That's not a hand I don't mind calling the raise there with that hand. Those cards are most likely live, and in this case they are. And wow, look at the flop for him. He's flopped an open-ended straight draw, backdoor hearts, and nobody has an ace. Now, if Scott would bet this draw aggressive, he could take it down. Now he's checked it, and it checks to the original raiser. And now what is he going to do? And he's just going to call. Now, if Scott shows any aggression on this at all, he will take it down. Turn is a 3, and Eric has only queen high. Eric is now the favorite, though, and Scott is going to check it. And the river is an 8, and Scott's going to need to bet this if he wants to take it down. And it looks like he's going to. It looks like he's cutting out chips here. He's going to have to. He's missed his straight draw. And it looks like he's putting in a $75 bet, and Eric cannot call.
Oh, there you go. He strapped on some balls here, Dave.
Yeah, no, I mean, he played this hand. I like the call pre-flop. Now, he played the hand a little passively until the river. I really would have liked to see him just come out and bet his draw right away. Instead, he checked and he called. And then the turn came out, he checked and the other player checked. And now he's bet when he's missed.
Now,
and he's going to take this down. And the only problem with this bet is you got to realize there's no way by betting $75 there, you're going to get an ace to lay down.
Yeah.
There's no way. So the only way you're going to, basically the only value of that bet is you're betting to get king, queen out, queen, jack out, king, jack out, something like that. And we always talk about, we like betting our draws right into the razor. You've got to realize that if the board is somewhat scary for you, if there's an ace out there, there's a good chance your opponent might have raised pocket 9s or pocket 10s, and maybe you can get him off that hand.
And Scott Huff is going to have the button over here in seat number 9.
By betting your draws, you can also name the price you want to pay for that draw. Scott wins a pot there.
Sylvester has been somewhat quiet here tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a couple of guys that are actually looser than Sylvester. I think that Gus and Sylvester kind of are loose, aggressive players, but they might rightly identify that there might be some looser players at the table. So, you know, they're tightening up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is not really a table you can run over because of seat 1 and seat 2 are pretty much calling you down and making moves themselves.
Seat 6 there raises with King 10, and he's going to take it down. From the side there, that guy looks a little bit like Gore from the side profile. From Ray's
Eric?
camera. Yeah. Camera hand. Camera angle. Oh, maybe not. Sort of. Button's going to move here to seat 1, George. And this game, as it goes along, we're going to get deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when we talk about an hourly rate for this game. Clearly, the first hour when this game first opens up, and there's only, say, about $4,000 on the table, your hourly is going to be a lot smaller than, say, 6 hours or 10 hours into this game when there might be $10,000 on the table.
Right.
Sylvester's going to limp in, actually, with 9s. And Chris limps in with King Queen. Sai's going to call with an Ace 4, and we're going to see this 6 ways. $30 pot.
So here we go, 6-way action. Sylvester limping in with 9s from up front. Well, Jack 7 deuce here with a couple of hearts, and 9s are good. Is Sylvester going to throw it a little bet here, see where he's at? I don't mind the check here with so many people in the hand, Dave. Turns a deuce. Let's see if he throws some bet out now.
Yeah.
Well, Ed actually has Jack 6. He's in the hand, so Sylvester does not have the best hand. And Ed checks again, and Sylvester's going to bet 20 here.
And I like the bet by Sylvester. I mean, I would probably think that I had the best hand here, too, with 9s.
Let's see what Ed is going to do. Ed is going to call. And this will probably go check-check, unless Sylvester specifically put Ed on a 7, thinks he can get a call. The river's a 6.
I got to tell you, call me stupid.
And now
you
Ed
might
makes
want to...
Jacks up, so he's going to come out and bet.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if Ed doesn't bet there and he checks it to me and I have 9s, I might specifically put Ed on 7, and I might bet it.
Well, Ed is bet 25 here, and Sylvester's getting about 3 to 1 on his money. Trying to figure out, well, what does Ed bet here? Did he sandbag a deuce? Did he miss a flush draw?
Is there any way Ed could foolishly bet 7-6 here? 2 pair?
Well,
Thinking his 7-6 are good?
Sylvester calls. And Ed is going to take it down there with the Jack 6. Jacks up, Jacks and 6s.
Yeah. I would probably pay him off, too. I just wouldn't. It's hard for me to put him on a Jack there. It
Yeah.
really is.
Oh, definitely. No real other draw got there.
Exactly.
Button's going to move over here to seat number 2. Email here from Kevin Prendergast. He says, admittedly, the limit program is not quite as exciting as the no limit, but I enjoy hearing the math discussion that's prevalent to the limit game. On Scott's play, if I double up immediately when I first sit down, I sometimes play conservative for an hour or so. I do this and see how many people...
I see so many people give
I
it
see.
right back in their first hour when they double up quickly after sitting down.
Any opinions on this scenario? Interesting.
That's why we have a tag team show.
Yeah, because apparently I can't read.
You know, obviously, we see that a lot of times. A lot of times people will sit down, double up or win some money, and then give it back.
A little $15 raise here by Chris with ace-jack offsuit. And again, you talk about, you know, Chris raises 15 with ace-jack. What is he going to raise with kings, queens, and aces? You can start eliminating hands by Chris's raise size pre-flop. 3, 4, 5 with a couple of spades.
Well, Ed's open-ended.
It gets checked over to Sai, and Sai's got a pair of 4s, and he bets. Now, Ed would have a much stronger hand if he had king 6 of spades here, obviously.
Oh, a king 6 of spades you could really go to war with. King 6 of clubs, you know, you can't really do much with.
Well, he makes the call.
And he's a slight underdog. It's pretty much a coin flip here.
Turns a queen. Ed's still in the lead here.
Oh,
Ed
now.
checks. And Sai checks right behind him. Or excuse me, Sai checks and Ed checks right behind him. The
And
river's
Ed
a
gets
spade.
there.
And Ed makes a king, and now Sai's going to come out and bet on the 3rd spade. He bets 50. Boy, this was a weird hand. I mean, Sai he
really
bet the
is.
flop, he checked the turn. Now he bets the river.
And Ed's going to pay him off here and take the pot down.
Oh. Open-ended, I hit the king.
That's what I put you on
There it is.
open-ended, and I didn't figure you out.
Sai says, that's what I put you on open-ended. Well, gets there.
What happened for being
Now, a
nice
game like
man?
this, I think the post-flop play is weak enough where I want to see a lot of hands
Yeah.
in position. Not too many hands out of position. But More often than not, it's one of the reasons it kind of dictates the way I play. More often than not, our competition is weak enough where I really want to see a lot of flops and let opponents make mistakes.
You know, we often get these types of questions, and I'll address it here again, but we don't really like to address it that much. Brian Santos from Springfield, Missouri says he's got a question about tipping. And basically, the answer I think that we want to give is it really is just up to you. There is no steadfast answer about moving up. Do you tip more? It's really up to the individual.
Right.
So, George's got pocket queens, and he's going to raise. Looks like he raised it to 30 here. With
I always think tipping's kind of a personal thing anyway. It's like when you go to a restaurant, it's kind of a guideline, you know?
Right.
I mean, realize that obviously everybody that works in a casino, they do work for a living, and tipping is part of their,
Right.
Their expected wages.
Button's going to move over here to seat number 4. And that's Sylvester over there in seat 4. Again, Scott Huff has not played many hands. He's up for when we've seen him on the show. And he won a big pot before the show.
You don't have to play a lot of hands to win.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Gus is going to limp in with King 7. Sylvester limps in with
the
King 9.
more hands you play, the bigger your swings are going to be. I mean, Scott Huff will rarely will you see Scott Huff be the big winner of a night. I mean, winning, $3,000-$4,000.
Jack 9-10 here on the flop. Now, Eric has got a straight draw. He's open-ended.
Now, Sylvester's got the bottom part of it.
Now, Cy is going to come out and bet with Jack 8. He's got top pair, and he's got the bottom open-ended of it.
Yep.
Sylvester, I don't know if he's going to get involved with 8-9 here. It's not really a good flop for 8-9.
Yeah, I don't think he is either.
The question is Eric going to get involved? Is he going to make the check call here with Queen 7? Now, I thought his Queen 7 was suited. It's not, so he doesn't even have backdoor clubs.
No, and Cy's going to take this down. Nice bet by Cy. I like the play.
Again, tomorrow night, those of you who are new to the show can check out 2550 No Limit Hold'em Whale Night, Dave. Unrestricted bind. It's going to be a big night of action tomorrow at the bike. We get a 300 plus 40 no rebuy tournament for Stars and Stripes. I would assume we're going to get at least 400 players for that.
Yeah,
probably
it's
$100,000
going to be insane here. I've already told my wife that tomorrow night I'll be here late playing poker.
Yeah.
The game should be fabulous. We probably have 2 25-50 games, and here's a chip count.
Now let's take a look at it. Now over 5,000 on the table. Scott Huff continues to lead the table here with 980. Let's take a look at the differences here.
Yeah, Scott, a big winner up 480.
Yeah.
Sylvester up 450. George now up 440. And Ed and Cy are the big losers so far, down 480 and 250. We'll keep track of that all night. Now, I was saying about swings. A player like, let's say, Corporation Mike or Jason Katsutani, or a player like Adam. We've seen Adam recently in the last few weeks. Those kind of players are going to have big swings. They might one day, even Barry Woods, they might win 15,000 or 20,000, but then lose 15, 20,000. While a player like Tommy Huffnagel or a player like Scott, their swings are not going to be nearly as drastic.
Look at this. George brought this one in with 8-9 off suit for a raise in early position. Cy called with the same hand, and George is going to bet here. Obviously, the flop pretty much missed both players. I mean,
well, that's the value of being the aggressor.
I mean, is Cy going to chase here or the gut shot to the 10 with 2 clubs, bottom end of it?
And more often than not, to the aggressor goes the spoils.
You know, the funny thing there about 8-9, as we often mention on the show when talking about calling with suited connecting hands, the problem that you run into with 8-9 there, obviously, is say you're still in there for some reason. You had 8-9 of clubs, and now all of a sudden, boom, a 10 comes. So now the board reads Queen, Jack, 10, blank. Well, gee, what can 8-9 lose to right now against a pre-flop raiser?
Exactly. Obviously, Ace-King is you've got to be thinking maybe my opponent has raised with Big Slick.
Right.
Out of all the suited connectors, 8-9 is actually my least favorite. I'd rather be in there with 4-5, 5-6, Jack 10. Those kind of hands, generally, if I hit the straight, I'm usually good.
Scott Huff is going to raise under the gun. He's going to make it 25 to go. He's got pocket 8s.
Well, he's playing his image a little bit here.
Yeah. Now, ace 10 offsuit here on the button. And again, this is what you talk about. You know, a lot of players, I don't mean to harp badly on Eric, but I mean, not paying attention, calling Scott Huff's under the gun raise with pocket 8s and size in there with 9-6, big lick.
I would imagine this is the worst hand Scott could have under the gun.
And here we go to the flop. And look at this, he flops a set of 8s.
Now, Cy's got top pairs. Cy going to get in trouble.
Come on, Scott. We've talked about this on his show. We went through it an hour. He's going to come out and bet the set. I love it. He's going to bet middle set. He bets 40. And I think that Sai's sticking around here, Dave.
I would imagine so. And he's in terrible shape, obviously. See what bad shape he's in here. This is going to be...
And Sai's going to move all in. He moves all in, and Scott Huff instantly calls. He moves all in with a check raise with 9-6. The turn is a 6, and the river is a deuce.
And Scott's going to win this with a set of 8s.
Look at that, like, kind of weak little bet, inducing Sai to make a move there with top pair, and Scott Huff takes it down. Masterfully played, I must say.
God. Masterfully played. Oh, Jesus Christ. God. Bart's nose firmly up Scott Huff's ass. I mean, the funny thing is, I got to tell you, okay, obviously flop the set here. Now, raising an early position in a no-limit cash game with pocket eights, a little bit more of a tournament play, I think, than a cash game.
Yeah.
The only reason I'll say this is the amount of time Scott Huff raises.
Yeah.
You got to remember, he's raising at $25. Now, if he doesn't get called with pocket eights, he's going to win $10, right? The problem is if he does get called, he's now playing pocket eights from out of position.
Right.
Now, hey, if he knows he's going to flop a set, it becomes really easy. But what happens if he doesn't flop a set? The flop comes out queen, 10, 4.
Right.
Well, now what do you do out of position with pocket eights? It really puts you in a tough spot. I mean, I'll say pocket eights. When you're in a no-limit cash game, pocket eights under the gun, what are you usually doing at that hand?
I usually limp.
You're usually limp, right? It's not usually a raising
I mean,
hand.
it depends on the table.
Of course,
yeah.
of course.
Got a raise here on the button by Card Player College Joe. Ace-Jack offsuit.
And look at this. The funny
Actually,
thing
it's
about
King-Queen offsuit, and Sai calls with Ace-Jack. He is rebought here.
the funny thing about this table, it just absolutely baffles me. And look at this.
Wow, now Joe's got top pair, and he's got a gut shot. And I assume he's probably just going to move in here, and he does.
Well, he tried to put his chips in out of play. I mean, out of turn.
Yeah. He moves in for 100 here. Now Sai, he just took a beat. He's got middle pair with the ace kicker.
Look at Joe's image, too. Look at him.
I mean, Sai might be steaming a little bit here. And look at this. He's going to get paid off by Sai. Now, Joe's going to need to dodge some cards here. The turn's a king. He makes two pair. He needs to dodge a spade. And the river is a king, and Joe fills up.
Yeah, and Joe takes it down. And look at that. Just like that, Sai doubles up the card player, boys.
Yep.
And look at... Now, while Scott kind of looks like, you know, okay, a writer, kind of person, this guy, you could tell he writes for Card Player College.
Right. Nice email here from Andrew Lichtenberger. Thank you.
Did I miss my last
Nice to see Joe win that hand there.
since he made the nuts on the river? Oh, she didn't do me in? So would have changed everything.
Great email here from Damian Wood. You want to read it?
Go ahead. Go
He
ahead.
says, limit is fine once a week. Just please don't broadcast a table full of fish who open limp any two and call flop bets with two undercards and runner-runner possibilities. You know, I wish we could kind of mandate who plays in the game.
Right.
And obviously we do have some say on some nights.
And because his email also goes on to say that players like Corporation Mike and Jason Katsutani make good TV, while tight players like Dr. BB do not. So there you go. And he finishes the email off by saying, "You assholes need a director, and you're lucky I'm available." There you go.
Well, thank you for letting us know you're available. We do have a director, actually. Does quite a good job. His name is Isaac.
Now, we had a raise here, and Sai, he's actually picked up a good hand here, and he's going to raise all in, kind of looking like he's trying to steam, but he's really got the goods here, this hand.
Yeah, and this is not a hand. If you're Joe here, even if you put the guy in a steam raise, you don't call with sixes, because even if Sai is steam raising with, say, Queen 9, you're pretty much 50-50.
Well, the pot is going to lay. He's moved in for 150, and Joe's not going to. I mean, there was about $50 in dead money in the pot.
The problem is, though, is, you know, maybe 50% of the time you're 50-50,
Right.
and the other 50% of the time you're drawing almost dead, or,
Right.
you know, really slick.
It was interesting. I was watching a WPT episode that really exemplifies that one particular spot where Nick Schulman did not call heads up and all in with, I think it was pocket fours. Again, I mean, he probably would call it ace-queen in a heartbeat there, the chances of him having his opponent dominated where only being 50-50 against a lower pair.
Yeah.
But calling your hand all in with a low pocket pair just really isn't the best move.
You
because-
almost never have your opponent dominated.
Yeah.
I mean, now if you start talking heads up, if you start having sevens or eights, well, hey, your opponent could have fives or fours.
Right,
But
right.
if you have fours, you know, what are you hoping your opponent has?
Yes.
Deuces?
got a raise here by side. He's got pocket nines now, and he's raised it a few hands in a row now.
Well, he's picked up a couple of decent hands now in a row. So
Number to call.
To make it 75 to go.
It's only half what he raised last
And I believe that he is going to take it down here. And he
take it
does.
downside.
You know, Scott, I think Scott Huff was actually kind of concerned. He kept asking me, Bart, I mean, how is the play here at this table? Is it like kind of a nitty game? You know, he's concerned that the table might be a little bit too tough for him. But
I told him it was a hit or miss. I said some nights
Yeah.
some nights the Tuesday game is kind of like the bane of our existence
Yeah.
in the sense that it's really, really nitty and it's really tight. And
Right.
Not much action. But tonight it's got a nice mixture of players.
yeah.
And look at that stack now. He's probably got close to $1,400 in front
Yeah.
of him.
Buttons here in seat number 1. Limp here by seat 5 with 9-10 of spades.
I wonder if Mattisau is watching.
Four-way action here.
So much nicer.
Ace, king, queen here on the flop. Gus has got king, jack. Nobody has an ace here.
Yeah, George has got a king also, and Gus's jack is going to play right now.
Gets checked around. Turns at 3.
Gus's jack still plays.
And he's going to throw a $15 bet out here. So a little surprised that George didn't actually bet the flop, Dave. With king 9 there.
Hey, you'd think, I mean, with his aggressive image, why not?
And he folds.
We just gave them.
Now, George is one of those players who becomes dangerous as he gets more chips.
Yeah.
Had a pair too.
Suddenly, we've got a lot of money on this table. I mean, you look at Sylvester's stack. Sylvester's got close to $800-900. George's got $900. Scott Huff with about $1,300 and $1,400. Even Ed in seat 2 has got over $700.
Right. Button's going to move over here to seat number 8. Eric's got an ace jack here from up front. Actually, Button's in seat 2. Excuse me. Where I do that little clock. Kind of screw that up. Get a little raise here by Eric with ace jack.
So I'm actually really excited. I'm headed down, like I said, I'm going down to Vegas on May 6th, Saturday morning, real early.
What's the tournament that you want to play down there?
Well, there's a couple. There's a World Poker Tour and the World WSOP circuits going on. It's kind of funny. The World Poker Tour is going on at the Mirage, and the WSOP circuit is going on at Caesars.
So if you do well, does that mean we're going to miss you the beginning of the next week?
No, I don't think so. It's a one-day event. They're all one-day tournaments. But more importantly, I don't even know if I'm going to be playing that much tournaments. My buddies are all meeting me out there.
Oh, okay. So
Like
it's more
6
of
of my
a-
buddies are going
Okay.
out there. We're going to play some golf, see a show,
See a
gamble
show?
a little bit. I think we might see a show.
Celine Dion at Caesars.
Yeah, I mean, I've got front row seats now, so. I'm a big Celine Dion fan now. Got her on my iPod.
Ace king suited here. George's going to bring this one in for a raise. He makes it 30. Now seat number 2 has got pocket jacks. Let's see what Ed is going to do here. Is he going to make the re-raise with jacks?
Now, oftentimes I will raise it up a little bit here just to kind of limit the field.
He's going to make it 100 more. He's going to make it 145 total, so 115 more.
Jacks are really that tough hand, though, where if you get re-raised here, well, then what do you do?
Well, of course, ace king suited here is a really tough hand as well. Now, Ed does have 500 behind, and George does have him covered. So against a short stack, I think for George it's either a push or a fold.
Well, it's not. He's not really against the short stack
That's
here.
what
I mean,
I'm saying,
Ed's got
yeah.
another $500. Would he just
Yeah.
call this, or would he move in, or how do you play this? Out of position with ace-king clubs. And remember, you're not going to see all. Everybody always says, "Well, it's a race." Only if you see all 5 cards. You're
Right.
only going to see 3 cards, and then Ed is going to bet again.
Well, George calls here. And this is when we sometimes like to say that you almost play ace-king a little bit backwards. If you flop an ace or a king, you actually should probably tend to check. Well, now there's a spade there. Now I
Yeah.
probably would bet. I
Problem
wouldn't
is-
want to give up a free card.
Right. The problem is, what if Ed has pocket queens, the queen of spades, or
Right.
jacks, the jack of spades, and he
Right.
takes the free card?
Yeah.
It's always a dangerous spot.
But again, that's kind of the one hand in this type of game that you might actually play a little bit backwards with
Right.
ace-king.
Once in a while, you mix it up.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of board here, though, you could actually bet it, and kind of almost represent like ace queen with the ace of spades, can't you? Terrible flop for Ed, isn't it?
Well, the pot is about $250, and George is trying to get a read here. I don't think he's acted yet.
I tell you, if a picture was worth 1,000 words, look at Ed playing with his chin and.
Oh, it goes check, check. George checked it, and the turn's a king.
Oh, that's great. Perfect value time here for George. There's no way Ed is going to put him on a king here. There's
Yeah.
no chance. And I think it's a nice time to bet here, and I don't think Ed's going to go anywhere.
He's going to bet 200.
And this is the problem with Jack sometimes when you get called.
Yeah.
You have no idea where you're at either. I mean, couldn't your opponent have queens here?
He's going to bet 200 into a $250 pot.
Actually, the way this hand played out, George can even have aces. You've no idea what he has. I know Ed's in really bad shape, though.
See what he's going to do here.
I mean, can you just call this?
I got to tell you, with the range of hands that a guy would call with the big re-raise, I think I just get away from the hand, Dave.
Yeah.
What does the guy have?
Well,
I don't
you've
know.
induced this bluff by
And
not
look at
checking.
this, and Ed's going to move in.
And George is obviously going to call
And George
this.
is going to call, and Ed has 2 outs to the win. And this pot, well,
This
George
has got a $1,200 pot.
yeah, George is not called yet, but if he
Oh,
makes the
come
call, it's
on.
going to be a 12. I think he has to call here.
It's a no-brainer call.
Yeah.
Come on, the pot is $1,200. It's $350 to call.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Ed's got 2 outs. 2 outs to the win.
And George is going to have a lot of money, and with George having a lot of money, he's going to be dangerous. Well, you know what? I mean, the way I played this hand, he really played it kind of strangely. He raised, it got checked to him, and he took the free card, and now he has no idea where he's at. He's induced this bluff. Couldn't George be making this move with just a spade in his hand?
And the river's a spade, which I'm sure either player does not like.
Yeah, they're
but,
both scared by that.
But ace-king is going to be good there.
Yeah, take it down, ace-king. Nice call. It was an easy call. That was simple.
Yeah, that was.
You know, I just want to throw this at you. Now, let's say you have jacks, okay, and you're a hand against me. Now, I've raised, you've re-raised, and I've called you out of position. The flop comes out like that, and you have 2 jacks. If I check to you and you check, you pretty much know I'm going to bet no matter what, don't you? I'm going to take a shot at it.
Right.
Are you just going to get rid of it automatically?
I kind of felt bad about my checking blind after I saw that flop.
And we say goodbye to Ed.
Button's going to move
Oh,
over
no,
to
Ed's still got it.
C4.
He's got his jacket there. I guess he's getting more chips.
I like the flop if I didn't check it blind.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize. Sometimes we don't catch those little things. George actually checked blinds.
Oh, okay.
Flop.
Okay. And look at
Why
Scott.
would you check blind? I never understood that
Yeah,
play.
so he checked blind. Scott's got aces. So, you know, it puts Ed in a tough spot. I mean, you know, it actually puts...
Could have shot a Ray there. Why does it put Scott in a tough spot?
No, when George checked blind, I mean, it's a bad check because of the 3 spades. Now, Scott raises with the aces and gets called in 2 spots here, and he flops top set in queen 10 of diamonds for Eric.
Yeah, and Eric's moving
And
already.
Eric's going to move in right
Tell you-
away.
Now, Eric's hand is actually pretty big here.
And Scott moves in over the top.
Eric can catch a jack or a diamond. Eric has 12 outs. Scott
Yep.
obviously has redraws.
Yep.
But the jack of diamonds would give the absolute nuts. How about running jacks here?
So Eric's making a big semi-bluff, but he's run into top set here, and Scott needs to dodge a diamond or a jack.
We have jackpot possibility here.
Yeah,
Come on.
we do. Here we go to the turn.
Nah.
Nope,
damn.
turns is 6. Scott needs to dodge a diamond or a jack, and
Ah.
the river's a diamond, and Eric takes it down there.
Yeah, set of
with a
aces.
flush.
Gonna lose that one.
Yep.
And you know, I don't mind the way Eric played that hand. I got to tell you. Even if you put your opponent on ace-king, or actually even in this case, a set of aces,
Right.
a jack or a diamond are good. You have 12 outs to the winner. Obviously, your opponent has redraws. With the dead money in the pot already, it's not a bad play.
And it actually only cost Scott about $300 there.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Tough beat. Tough beat. Not much you can do. That's just poker.
But anyways, what I was saying is the check blind there. Look at this. Gus has picked up aces. The check blind there, you know, it's a horrible check blind from what came out in the flop because it gives that guy a free card to the 4 spade.
You might knowingly, in your mind, you might be checking blind.
Right.
You might actually say, there's nothing that can come on this flop that is going to make me bet. I am going to check no matter what comes out, okay? I have no problem with that. But once you let your opponent know you've done that, your opponent knows that you might have hit the flop and you're checking anyway. I'd rather have my opponent feel like I'm checking because I've missed.
And Gus is going to raise here with aces, and he's not going to get in the action there. Well, that's always tough when you flop a set of aces and lose, but I mean, all the money was going in there on that flop. So.
Nothing you could do. And it was the second time somebody's moved all in right into Scott Huff's set.
That's why he didn't
Yeah.
know what to do on the flop. You know, he's got the nut.
Scott's got
top pair
pocket
with
6s
nut
here under the
pair.
gun. Let's see if
That
he's
one
going to
I
make an
checked.
open limp here.
Yeah, this is clear. To me, this is not a raising hand.
You know,
It is a hand you
that's
can
why I
limp
would
in
check
with.
him and go all in with it.
It's a hand you can play out of position because if you hit a set, you hit your set. You don't, you get out.
And he's going to raise. Interesting.
Yeah, a little bit more of a tournament move there.
Yep. He's going to raise it up to 20. I don't really want to see a couple callers in there.
Well, I mean, the only thing is he's naming his price now. He's going to see the flop for 20. Now, if I get called in a bunch of spots, and look at this, nobody's going to call except the Cy.
Well, Cy's going to call with 10-3 of diamonds to the under-the-gun Scott Huff raise. And look at this, Scott's flopped another set. Queen 8-6. And this time he checked it, Dave. He didn't bet the set, turns 3, and he's induced to bluff by Cy. And he's actually slow playing here. I do not believe he has raised the turn.
No.
He's actually slow
How about
played
a
it
3
here.
or a 10 here? No.
The river's an ace, and Cy cannot beat anything now.
And when Cy checks, obviously Scott's going to put a little value bet in there. And no call there, and Scott wins. I got to tell you, Scott really should, his next book better be, you know, how to flop a set.
Yeah. What do you think about that check on the flop there, Dave?
You know, heads up like that, I don't mind it once in a while. I mean, we always talk about playing hands fast and playing them hard.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a terrible... I don't think it's necessarily a terrible move once in a while to mix up your play.
Yeah.
You know, we saw him fast play his 8s and he got paid off. There, he probably made the maximum with a set of 6s.
Got an email here from Let's Trade DNA. It says, hey Bart, Scott Huff is not Asian. Why are you kissing his ass? Masterfully played, laugh out loud. Thanks, buddy. And email here from Joe McLean. Ask Scott Huff how he deals with the overblown egos of the likes of Helmuth, Hansen, and Tuckman.
I did.
I guess that was, it's Hansen with an S-E-N. I guess he was referring to me, but Hansen's S-O-N. I thought maybe he was talking about Gus Hansen, who spells it
Who knows?
S-E-N. But my last name is spelled S-O-N.
Good question, though, John. Obviously, dealing with the overblown egos of today's poker world players, you never know.
We had a little raise here. And seat 5 is going to make, I believe, a little continuation bet with 6-7 of diamonds. And Cy calls with middle pair, and Cy has seat 5 outkicked. And we are heads up here. Turns a jack. Let's see if Chris can keep firing here. Cy checks. Well, you look at that board, though. You look at that flop. It's not real draw heavy, and the river's a 5. And it's going to get checked down.
And the 10 plays.
10's going to play here.
Yeah. Both players, you play your best 5 cards and hold them. So both players have a pair of 6s, Queen, Jack, and Cy has a 10, while Chris has a 7. I know it seems so silly. Doesn't it seem so trivial when you go, wait a second. Both players have a pair of 6s, Queen, Jack, and the 5th card is either a 10 or a 7, and that makes a difference. Well, it doesn't hold them. This is a game of kickers. Once again, we're live at the bike, folks. I'm David Tuckman here at Bart Hansen. You can catch us every Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. You can also check out our website. We've got a bunch of cool features on there. We're always adding new stuff. We've got my blog on there called Under the Gun with David Tuckman. I try to update it once a week. We've got Bart's bio, my bio. We've got some terminology and definitions that we commonly use on the show, poker news, the archives. I mean, you name it, we've got it there.
Three-way action here. And Scott Huff has got 9-10. He's got top pair. Turns a 5. Let's see if he's going to throw some money out now.
Now, George has also got a 10.
Well, George actually, Scott checked it twice, and George is going to bet 15 here. It's a third spade, and I think Scott check calls here.
Yeah, and this will probably go check, I guess, in the river.
River's a 4.
Wow, and Scott's 9 is going to play.
Yep, it is. River's a 4.
And you can't blame George. George bet it there, gets called. He goes, you know what? I can't get a hand better than mine out, can I?
Interesting post here by Baron Van Gortoth. He says, something people should notice about Scott, though, regarding being too tight. Even when you're that tight, you still get action because no one's paying attention. So why not play it tight? And Pajato concurs, because obviously we know Jay Siegel plays really tight, but still people play with him when he plays like one hand an hour.
That's the point we just brought up there.
Yeah.
You see, he doesn't play him for the first 40 minutes. Then he flops a set and he doubles up.
Right. Eric is going to raise here with ace-jack of diamonds here to 20. And George is going to call with a suited ace-8 of spades here on the small blind. Is he going to get in trouble if an ace flops?
Yeah. It's amazing. I actually read this by Pajato. It says, I believe the only reason, and this is Jay Siegel over on 2+2, I believe the only reason I am a winning player at Cash No Limit games is that no one notices or cares that I play tight and still get and I still get action, even though I only play premium hands at the rate of maybe 1 per hour.
Check on the flop. Ace-jack does not throw a continuation bet in.
Well, the jack is going to play right now if George doesn't bet.
Check, check on the turn. And the river's an 8. George backs into ace
Hey,
8.
would you ever bet if you're George here for value?
Bet for value. And he's
mean,
going to bet. He's going to bet 35.
Man, I got to tell you, if you're Eric, I might even call with ace high here. Wow. Now, Pojeto, it's funny because you watch that, and sometimes you and I are amazed. We go, wow, how are these guys giving him action? Like, we are amazed on Friday night's show, Dr. Beebe played like one hand,
Right.
yet Barry Woods actually paid him off, which I could not believe. But we see it time and time again.
Button's going to move over here to George in seat 1. And like you said, he's got a lot of chips. He might really press the issue. Cy limps in here with 7 deuce offsuit. 1 off the cutoff.
25.
And George's going to raise it up to 25 here with 6-7 offsuit.
Now, Johnny over in 2+2 brings up a good point. He says, hey, Tuck, you could probably see Celine Dion's husband at the poker tournament. I know Celine Dion's husband is a poker tournament player now. And I wonder if he could comp me some tickets.
Yeah.
Have you seen the show, Celine Dion?
No, I have
No?
not. No.
I saw it over the summer, actually.
Have you?
During the World Series.
Have you seen Wayne
Last-
Newton's show at the Stardust?
I never saw Wayne
No.
Newton. Missed that one. But Celine Dion I saw last summer. We went to a bunch of Circus Olay shows, and we saw the Celine Dion show. I went there with my wife. It's actually a really good show. It was. I'm sorry, you know what? I'm man enough to admit that it was a good show, okay? I don't have to put up this big old pompous,
I actually
fake.
think that Cirque du Soleil is pretty cool. Have you seen Blue Man Group before, too?
Yeah, I don't like it.
No?
Bunch of guys running around in blue. Does nothing for me.
Limped around there. 4-way action.
4 players.
Ace 8-4 here, Rainbow. Queen 8 for size, the best hand. Let's see if he bets it. No, he doesn't bet it in middle position. And Gus might take a shot. He's got King 4. He's going to bet 15. Sylvester calls with pocket deuces. Wow. Maybe he thought it was going to get heads up. Maybe he was going to bet into Gus on the turn.
Yeah, he might have.
Turns a jack. And it gets checked around. The river's a 3.
And whoever bets this might take it down.
Well, Sylvester knows. I'm sure he knows his hand can't win in showdown. Is he going to bet into 2 people as a bluff? No.
No, he's going to give up this.
And as you can see, Cy is pretty content to check down the middle pair at the river, where he might actually bet a weak top pair for value, and he takes it down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, since I spent all of last World Series in Vegas, and my wife was cool enough to actually be there the entire time taking care of me, I thought the least I could do was go see Celine Dion. But I was pleasantly surprised, I must say. I actually like that kind of stuff. I used to go to a lot of Broadway shows and stuff. I kind of liked it. Circus Olay, I mean, my favorite Circus Olay show is actually, I gotta say, is probably the best over at Bellagio.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Phenomenal show,
Yeah.
really is phenomenal.
A lot of trampoline stuff and jumping
Yeah.
up like 100 feet in the air.
In the
and all that
water and
stuff.
stuff, it's really
Yeah.
cool. I actually saw a show down in Santa Monica called Cavalier, it was kind of a horse-driven show, all horses, with Circus Olay as well, and that was amazing as well. Really good.
5 players.
Limped around here, 5-way action. King 4 deuce, all clubs. We got the Jack of clubs out. We got the Queen of clubs out.
Yeah, nobody's really got much of anything.
Well,
Gus has got top
Yeah,
pair.
Gus has got King Jack with the Jack clubs in the cutoff. He's going to bet. He's going to bet 20. Yeah. And Sylvester calls. Queen 10. Boy, with all those people behind you. Well, this is the second nut flush draw, but I mean,
Yeah, but
turns a club. Well, now third nut against second nut here. And can anyone really bet this that hard?
the problem is he's calling with just basically that's a naked flush draw, and it's
Yeah.
not the nut flush draw, and it's an obvious one where you're not going to get paid.
Gus bets. Now, this is going to be interesting to see here. Gus could have bet the nut flush draw. I mean, you assume Sylvester's going to call, and if Gus checked it to me on the river, I would bet with my queen. But let's see how this one plays out.
And what happens if Gus bets 200 on the river?
River's a 4. It pairs the board.
I mean, what if Gus puts in a nice $200 bet here?
Well, he's going to bet, and I think that Sylvester's probably going to call. Just a little $40 bet. I assume that Sylvester can really only call this, not a whole lot of value to raising
Well,
here,
Gus
there?
is kind of naming his price here, too. He doesn't, maybe he doesn't want to check and then face like an $80 bet on the river.
$40 bet into about a $100 pot, maybe a little more than that.
I mean, I think it's an easy call for Sylvester. Yeah, and he does.
He calls.
Show down the queen of clubs. And the whole point, the reason I don't really like the call there is, first of all, it's very obvious. It's a 4 flush out there if you
Right.
hit your hand. You really shouldn't make much money. You can't play the hand hard. You almost have to play it defensively.
Chicken tender, good point. My name on the credits is still spelled S-E-N on there? I think it's actually changed.
No respect you get, man. I'll tell you. No
wanted to
respect.
see what happened.
You know, the truth be told, when you go to Chicago to visit your mom, we're getting another Hansen in here. He spells his name S-E-N.
Oh, okay. Hopefully it's Gus Hansen.
Got me last time.
Oh, yeah, King Jack.
Limp here on the button. Ace-7 offsuit.
4 players.
Checked around. 4-way action. 10-5-4, couple spades out there. No one really has much. Looks like King-4 might be the best hand. And Joe is going to come out and bet with a gut shot wheel draw to the 3. Cy calls with King-4. Kind of yet to figure out Cy's game here, Dave. He plays a bit erratic. And here we go to the turn. The turn's a 3, and look at that. Gin card for Joe. He's made the wheel. And he bets again. And he's going to take it down.
Take it down, Joe. I got to tell you, one of the reasons why you never really want to take things out of context. I'm just going to read this one line to you. Jay Siegel over on 2+2 Projeto says, please have all the players pee into a bottle for future
One guy is calling you.
live at the bike drug testing.
Because he's only calling you with the one that beats you.
I mean,
Add a way to take that out of context.
yeah, exactly.
Button moves over here to seat 6. Scott Huff is under the gun here.
I guess Jay Siegel's into some kinky stuff, huh?
Limp by seat number 1. 7-4 of clubs. King Jack here for seat 6 on the button. He's going to pop it up a bit.
You gotta pick on my blind again?
He makes it 40, and Cy's going to call with ace deuce of clubs.
He calls, I gotta call.
And George's clubs are dominated
I like
here.
your hand again.
And here we go to the flop.
Definitely your hand.
Well, there's the ace.
Ace 10-10. Well, Cy's got the best hand. How does he know it? And this one might get checked around here, and it does. Turns an ace, and now Cy fills up. And he doesn't put any money out there.
Hey, if you're Eric here, would you bet with the nut no pair? I mean, I might think my king is good.
River's a 4. And did Cy check the river? Also?
Oh, he's reduced the bluff from George. And look, he gets the overcall from the king high.
Oh, wow.
Well, hey, I got to tell you, the way this hand was played, I probably call it a king as well.
And Cy check raises.
And both players are going to fold this, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
You have a king?
George tried to take. Actually, no, George bet there with really was nothing, obviously.
Nothing, because the 4 doesn't
The
play.
4 doesn't play, right.
Right. He would have been beaten by seat 6 with King Jack.
Yes.
All I can do, I had 7.
He only beat the board by a couple.
I thought if I beat the minimum, they'll really put me on the... Straddle.
Button's going to move over here to seat 7.
In fact, I won't look at it till it comes to me.
King, queen, ace 6, ace king for Cy
Yeah.
in the small blind.
I think it's straddle here by George in seat 1, so it's $10 to call.
And after a couple of limpers, I mean, I think it's time to make it 60 or 70 bucks with this ace
Yeah.
king.
Come on. Nobody
Pick up all the dead
can
money.
beat that.
He's going to make it 40. And he gets called by... Did he get called? No, George is in there with 9-6 of clubs. And he is going to call. Now, I got to tell you, Cy is not... This is where I think George is making a mistake here. Cy is not deep enough for him to make this call.
No,
here,
he's
Dave.
not.
Cy only has about 200. And Sylvester overcalls with ace deuce of diamonds. And Eric's in there with king queen. 4-way action, $200 pot. Wow, what a monster flop for Cy. Ace 10-5.
Wow,
Nut
the ace
flush
king
draw.
of spades.
And Cy's a slow player. I assume he's going to check.
Wow, and that is your
No, he
once,
bets. He bets.
That is your
okay.
once a week flop there. That's huge.
He's going to move in. He moves in here.
Why does he move? See, that's that. It's such an odd play. You move
Right.
all in with ace king of spades there. To be called by what?
I don't understand that.
I mean, he actually drove out the only other ace there, scared him
Right.
out. And what is Chester doing here? What is this? He's sending us this Asian woman with a banana in her mouth?
Sign up. Keep doing it.
Oh, I'll get an email here from John Stapleton. I think it's Joe's brother. Tell Hoff to take his hand off the dealer's thigh and let someone else catch some cards. There you go.
Hold on. What am I doing in there?
And tell him that Marcel Loose calls and wanted his glasses back while you're at it. There you go.
There you go.
Button moves over here to seat 8.
30.
Seat
Now,
6 is going to raise.
Now, I'm not sure. Did Joe buy in for 300, 400,
No,
or
he
500?
bought in for 500.
He did buy in. So he's down a couple hundred still.
All right, let's go.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sure about Joe.
Okay.
Eric raises with 6s. Seat 1 calls with 8-9. Jack 9 deuce here. George outflopped him. Check, check. Eric is really passive post-flop here. And George is going to bet here when the Jack pairs on the turn. Jack, deuce, 9, Jack on the flop and on the turn. And Eric is trying to figure out what to do here. He's going to get rid of it. Eric really has not shown any post-flop aggression if he doesn't have anything, if he didn't hit the flop.
No, really hasn't.
Yeah.
And there are a few players at the table that are a little more aggressive than the others. And but Eric is not one of them.
Again, you can email us at liveatthebike.com. You can follow a thread started on the internet by going to 2plus2.com, spelled out. Click on forums, tournament poker, world poker tour, etc. You can also become our friend at MySpace, myspace.com/liveatthebike. Check it out. Have you seen these Shauna Hyatt Playboy photos, though, too?
I have not.
It's a huge thread on 2plus2. It's been going for several years. Oh, they're
Several
great.
years?
Yeah, a couple years. They're great.
Wait, the photos have been the
The thread, yeah.
has been going on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
There are guys still talking about
I'll
it.
show you when it
What could you
started.
possibly still be talking about it though?
How about you? Really?
Over 1 million
Wasn't
views.
was she naked before? Wasn't that before WPT or after?
It was before. 8 deuce 4 here, a couple of diamonds on the flop. It was limped around. Eric's got 6s again. He bets. And queen deuce calls. Queen deuce calls. And we're heads up. Turns a queen.
Well, there's a queen.
And George
two
hits
pair.
2 pair. And again, you know, you look at George, he's going to bet 30. I assume that Eric is going to get... Well, Eric's got a 6 of diamonds and he makes the call.
And Eric needs a 6 or a diamond to win this hand.
And the
there's
river's a
diamond.
diamond. He doesn't know where he's at.
But if George fires here, can Eric bet?
It gets checked down. I was just saying, Dave.
What were you just saying?
Eric has not played aggressively post-flop without having something. And then George check calls here with queen deuce.
Yeah.
Unless he was trying to represent diamonds, I just don't quite understand it. Yeah, the thing was posted up here on May 12th of, or May 13th of 2004.
2 years ago. Wow.
Over 1 million views.
Oh, talking about the past catching up to you, I have confirmation.
Yeah,
The David Williams amateur porn video
yeah.
is indeed him.
Confirmation you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have utmost confirmation, and from what I've heard, it's actually from David Williams himself,
Oh, okay.
who's actually come out and said, yes, it was me, okay? Shut up already about it. I don't care.
Look at this new player in the game, Israel. He's got pocket aces, and he's going to raise out of the blind. Look at this, a mini raise. He min raises it to 30. Kind of dangerous. I mean, I don't think he's going to drive anybody out. Chris with pocket 5s, it's only 15 more, and he makes the call. And
Well,
he
why
should.
not? And George calls it 10-7 offsuit, and we're going to see this 3 ways.
Well, queen 9-8.
Well, George is open-ended.
Yeah. I mean, this is a dangerous way to play aces if you want them cracked. And I got to tell you, say Chris, and say the flop came out queen 8-5, I would assume that Chris would have all of Israel's money here.
Of course he would. Now the question is, is there any way George calls this? Now the pot is going to be about, I want to say, $180. It's 100 to call. Plus you have the implied odds if you hit your hands.
Well, pure open-ended, I mean, no flush
Yeah,
draw.
I
He's
don't-
only got 8 outs, 1 card to come, Dave. I mean,
Now, you're only going to get one card because you know
Yeah.
Israel's going to push it all in
yeah,
on the turn.
he's got, and the turn's a 9. Israel moves in.
Yeah,
I think
and that's the
play.
problem with it there.
You got 1 chance in about 6, or 1 chance in 5.5. So basically, with 1 card, you need to make that call to make off of the bet on the turn. The turn is a $100 bet. You need to make 5 to 1. If you're going to call that 100, you need to make 500 total. Now, if he bet 100 and he had money behind, and say the pot was already 300 and he had 200 behind, maybe you can call with 1 card to come. You got to also decrease your odds to the fact that the 2 flushes out there.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, you've got to realize that the 2 flush, that if a 3rd spade comes out there, that might scare your opponent. You might not make any money anyway. You also have to realize your opponent might not have anything.
Right.
And if you make your flush and you make your straight and you move in, your opponent might not call you.
Button moves over here to C2.
But in that case, even if he hits his hand, and he moves in and he gets called, he's only getting about $380. He's getting 3.8 to 1, which is not enough.
A little raise here by, I want to say it was by George, and Sylvester called with an ace-4. And Sylvester's going to lead out with a gut shot wheel draw, but George got top pair. And George immediately raises with king 10.
You wonder if Sylvester's getting a little bit impatient. I mean, that flop is not a very good flop for ace-4 spades, is it?
And Sylvester is going to, did he re-raise or he calls? He calls the raise. Pot is quickly $180. Turn is an 8. Sylvester does not have clubs. And it goes check, check.
Well, see,
and River's a 3.
I gotta tell you, I don't like the check by George there. I mean, he's induced this bluff, but I don't like it at all.
And Sylvester...
2 clubs out there. You've got to be wary of the fact that your opponent might have a club.
Oh, this is funny because Sylvester was going to put 100 out there, and George said call. So George said call prematurely, so Sylvester only put out about $20 in his hand. Got to wait for people to make that bet there at the end. So we checked the turn, I guess, to talk about control pot size.
Tough to bluff.
Yeah, I don't like the check on the turn. Not with 2 clubs out there. Sylvester comes out and bets. You raise, and he calls you. What do you put him on? The board was 10-5-3. Now, to me, I've got to go, okay, this guy's either got a 10, or he's got 4 deuce, or he's got some sort of wheel draw or a flush draw. And if he's got something like ace-4 with clubs, well, he's got a lot of outs. I don't want to give him a free card.
Interesting post here on 2+2 by Stewie Kid. Said, guys, quick question about your opinion of the 300 to 500 game at the bike. I've only played this game a few times, and my impression of the game is that it's filled with tighter players that are apprehensive about stepping up to the 500 game. There seems to be more action, a lot more profit in the 200 game. What are your thoughts? Get to that in a second. Queen 10 deuce here was limped around. Rainbow flop, checked around, turns a 4.
Oh my God, they're gonna let me get there.
And no one has anything here. Ace high is good. River's a 7, and Israel backs into a pair here.
Yeah. They let him get there. Not much value into betting the 7.
No.
He's not going to. You know, it's funny with the $200 game.
200 game for people that those aren't familiar. It's a 200 restricted buying game, 3-5 blinds.
Yeah, the problem is the blinds are awfully high considering how much you're buying in for. You're only getting about 40 times the big blind.
Yeah.
I'll answer the rest of this question after this chip count.
Here we go.
Yeah, about $5,000 on the table.
George has quickly moved up here. Scott, still over 1,000.
Yeah, even after losing with a set of aces.
Yeah, let's take a look at the differences. Scott's up 530. George's up 1,000.
Sylvester up 365. Cy and Gus are our big losers. Now, a couple of our other big losers actually left the table, and one of them was Ed. I want to say Ed actually lost 2 buy-ins.
5-way action here, limped around. Queen 6-3 here with a couple of spades. We've got a queen 9 over there in C3, and Gus is going to bet. He's going to bet 20. With top pair, I don't think anybody can call here. Is George going to... Oh, George is not in the hand. And Gus is going to take it down. So anyways, more thought about the 200 game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the 200 game, you've got to realize you're buying in, you're only getting 40 times the big blind. And the problem with a game like that is you are severely short-stacked right away.
Yeah.
Now, if you can get it to the point where you can win the first couple of hands you play and you can double up or triple up, and the other players at your table also have that much money, well, then you can really start playing some poker. But inherently, it is a difficult game to beat because the rake is high, and there's not that much money on the table.
Ace-king here for seat 5 on the button. When are we going to get Melissa in the game?
Well, we got a great email here from Melissa Caulfield.
Who's that?
I don't know. It says, hey, Tuck, are you playing tonight, Tuck? Will you put me into a good game? She says, you know who, I hope. And I've already told her I will back her anytime she comes
Why
down
can't we
here.
get her on the show?
I don't think she wants to play on the show.
No?
She can
I'll
email
go
you with her
easy on
answer.
her. I'll go easy on her.
I think the only time I put her on the show is if she plays you heads up.
Oh, okay. Chris raised there on the button with ace-king. Israel, for some reason, limped in with jack-5, did not call the raise.
All right.
And again, Scott Huff played it pretty tight.
Straddle. Always straddle. You did a good job. I'm gonna have to call that straddle.
And we've got a raise here by Israel. He's going to bring this one in with 7s.
Straddle.
Oh, it's actually a straddled pot.
Careful, guys. He limped in.
So it's just a limp out of seat 2. Joe completes. Queen Jack of clubs, seat 7.
The best positions to raise.
And Scott Huff's got king 9. Is he going to throw the extra chip in? He does.
maybe I should.
Let's see what George has here.
No, why would I want to steal with this hand?
Actually, Scott Huff's got 5-8. George's got
Okay.
king 9. He taps the table. Queen 9.
Did you say
deuce
somebody
here.
had queen 9?
Well,
No, nobody
Joe's
did.
got queen jack. Joe's going to lead out from first position here.
I like that bet.
And
I
again,
really
I
do.
mean, George is going to call him here with king 9.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give a free card if I have queen jack down with that board.
Turns to 6.
I'll
Joe's
bet
going to
again.
continue to lead.
Yeah.
That's 25 here.
I mean, call me stupid, but until somebody shows me otherwise, I'm going to think that I have the
And
best
George
hand.
continues to call with king 9.
Amazing.
And the river's the third diamond. Will George represent? Well, Joe's going to bet a little stop bet again here.
I like it. I really like the bet here. And
Oh, and look at this. And George is going to raise him, representing the diamonds. He's going to raise him.
I'm assuming that's why he was calling, right? I mean, I'm looking at his hand. Do you think maybe he's misread his hand? He really thinks he has 9 of diamonds?
I don't know.
He can't have 9 of diamonds.
He's
It's on the board.
gonna raise it 60, and Joe makes a quick call. He didn't make it that much. And Joe calls with his hand, which is pretty much kind of just a bluff catcher, and he's gonna take it down there.
Yeah, you know, I'm surprised now. I wonder if George moves all in, can Joe call?
Right.
I mean, you have to think your opponent was calling you with something, right?
Email here from Donkey Kong.
I guess Ryan. His
Johnson.
name Ryan Johnson.
Yeah. Said I donkeyed my way into winning a seat at the World Series of Poker main event. I rarely play tournaments. I was wondering if you could recommend any great no-limit hold'em tournament books besides Super Systems 1 and 2. Well,
Yeah, Super
Scalan-
Systems is actually a,
Yeah, it's more of a
cash game.
Skalansky's book, Tournament Poker. I mean, it doesn't necessarily,
You know what?
it doesn't necessarily address
Yeah.
no limit in particular, but I think that the
I'd go to-
basics of talking.
I like TJ Cloutier's book.
Dude,
I like his No Limit Tournament book, and I also like Dan Harrington's. They're both contrasting styles,
Yeah.
but to me, it gives you a little more insight into No Limit tournaments.
we had a raise here by Israel with Jack 9, and he
Well-
flops trip jacks.
And now, seat number 4, Sylvester's got the nut flush draw. But you like Skalansky's book, huh?
I think the tournament book gives, and of course Jack 9 checks the flop here with 2 hearts. Sylvester's got the nut flush draw, turns a 9.
Well, Israel's made full house. He can't lose the pan now.
Is he going to put any money in the pot? Well, now George is going to, he's going to bet 40.
And that's a case 9 out there, too.
Yeah.
And if you're Israel here, look at him, shaking
Yeah.
his hand. What do I do? Oh, my God. Well, I'll call.
Oh, this is so blatant.
Oh, somebody get the Oscar out for him.
And did Sylvester not pick up on this? He's going to, I think Sylvester is going to raise. Oftentimes, Dave, you see the bet and the call, and
Yeah.
he raises, but he just didn't pick up on that tell by Israel there.
Oh, it amazes me. Always laughable.
He's going to make it 125 more. George, I'm sure, is going to fold, and let's see how Israel's going to play it.
Now, let's just look at Israel here. I'm just curious. Now, George, we know George has got nothing. He's probably going to fold. Israel here, all relaxed. What do I do? Now, if you're a good player, after you bet like this, you don't necessarily want to be looking at the player who's cutting out the chips. You got to be looking at the other players as well.
I gotta tell-
Keep your eye on Israel.
You know, I got to tell you, I don't buy the fact that Sylvester doesn't bet a jack here on that flop. He's kind of too good of a player. He's not going to necessarily check a jack there.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah,
I don't buy it either.
yeah.
But is there any way that Sylvester could have, say, hearts or ace-9 of hearts, something like that?
Fold here. Let's see what. I got to tell you, you know, if I didn't know it was Sylvester, I probably would just push here and hope the guy has a jack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're out of position.
I agree with you.
I mean, at this point, though, I almost know that Sylvester doesn't have a jack, and if I'm against
Hey,
Sylvester,
What's he saying?
he's just asking about the raise amounts.
Look at him blowing.
He calls. Oh, wait a minute. He's going to min raise back. 250.
And you know what? This actually that's not a bad play there. By minimum raising, he's getting a little bit more money in the pot, and it actually prices Sylvester in. Well, Sylvester might think, oh, this guy's got a jack. He was sandbagging a jack. Shoot. But you know what? It's 125 to win about 500. I have to call this. Hopefully, I'll hit a heart or an ace.
I think you.
Oh, I'm sorry, not an ace, a heart.
I mean, he was the pre-flop raiser. I think you got to put him maybe on pocket 9s here, and then he just kind of got scared of the flop for some reason. Maybe he filled up here on the turn.
Why, you can't? Well, you couldn't put him on ace jack or king jack?
Well, maybe. He's min raised back here.
Yeah. I mean, my thinking though is that now that the pot is $500 plus implied odds. Now, obviously, Sylvester, if he knew that Israel's got a full house, it's an easy laydown. But if you don't know he has a full house, would you ever be priced into your draw here, thinking, hey, if I hit my heart, I can break this guy?
Right.
But I like the raise, I got to tell you. I really do. The more I think about it, you do a little mini raise there. You get more money in the pot, and if Sylvester is on a heart draw, you kind of price him in. Hey, and if Sylvester has a jack, he's going to call you anyway. And you can get the rest in on the river. And Israel has the absolute nuts. Cannot lose to any hand. There's no hand out there that he can lose to. He has the highest full house possible. And the only hand that could actually even come close to beating him would be some sort of straight flush, like a queen 10 of clubs.
He's going to get away from it here, Dave.
Yeah, he gets away from it. And the river would have been a
Deuce of clubs.
Yeah. Wouldn't have changed anything.
And there it is. Button's going to move over here to seat 8. Israel takes down over a $500 pot. Already we get the post here, Pajedo. Thursday's game day pot limit or $200 restricted?
I'm assuming it's pot limit. I'll talk to Mo about it. Mo, from all indications from Mo is he's actually trying to make it a 10-20 pot limit game.
Wow.
He thinks he'll get more action that way.
He's happy taking a third night on here.
It was his suggestion.
Yeah.
None of us went to him, so.
Pocket queens here for Sylvester. Maybe he's steaming here, Dave. Maybe time to put in a good raise. Make it look like he's steaming, and he often does steam.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm looking at the post here. Everybody's ripping me about Celine Dion, but you know what? Chicken Tender actually comes out and admits. He goes, you know what? It is a good show. You know, I'm not one to sit home and listen to Celine Dion like while I'm like, you know, just relaxing. But the show is actually pretty cool. And until you see it, don't knock it.
Well, Sylvester's raised it up here 20. Now, Augusta's not going to get involved, and Sylvester takes it down there with the queens. You know, it's funny, against Sylvester, because I know Sylvester's game so well, for some reason, if I had played Jack-9 in that manner, I probably call and actually check the river to him, because I don't think he has a jack. I think he's totally bluffing. Maybe he's got hearts. And actually, I might bet into him if he has hearts, if a heart comes on the river.
But you wouldn't price in the draw? I'm really surprised Sylvester did not call that minimum raise there. Yeah. The pot was 500, 125 to call. He's getting like 4 to 1
against any other player, especially ones that I'm not familiar with. I push.
Yeah,
I push. But against Sylvester, I just don't buy the fact he has a jack.
Right.
Yeah. Again, you can email us at live@thebike.com. Questions, comments, suggestions. Become our friend at myspace.com. myspace.com/live@thebike. Button's moved over here to Scott Huff. He's got 8-6. And Eric is going to raise here with an ace-jack of spades to 30. Got about an hour left in the show. Scott Huff will be coming in here in maybe 50 minutes or so.
Worried about the jack? 30.
And I think Eric's going to take this one down here without a flop, and he does.
That's funny. I got an email here from James Gelfer. And I guess there's no way I can really avoid this, but let's say, the question actually says, with Dave not wanting his wife on the show, it raises a question that I've had for a long time. And the first thing actually is Dave does not want his wife on the show. Actually, I'd love to see my wife on the show.
Yeah.
I don't think she wants to be on the show.
Oh, okay.
She'd rather just play on her own, in their own thing. Now, at some point, she might want to play on the show, but not right now. And the next one is Dave's wife hot? And he'd like Bart's unbiased answer on the subject.
I'll play a little story after this hand Friday night.
Well, Ronnie thinks she's hot.
That's why I didn't call your raise.
I think she's hot.
Got a raise here with King Queen. Seat 8 calls with 5-6.
I think she's smoking. But hey, that's just me.
Size called here with 6-5. He's not that deep.
Yeah, I know. I was in about 2 players.
And here we go. To the flop. King Queen against 5-6. Well, ace 9-4. Let's see. Eric plays it pretty passively post flop.
Yeah, I think he needs to. Well, check.
Turns a king. I think for some reason they're checking it down.
Button good.
Of course, we can't encourage that on the show. But
No.
King is good.
I don't think it's not necessarily their friends. I think just Eric was a little passive. He didn't like the flop and said, okay, let's see if I can get a free showdown at my king high.
You know, I'm not married, and actually I'm currently single.
Everybody behind you,
And I don't know if you're the type of guy that would be upset about this, but, you know, if I currently did have a girlfriend, a couple guys at the poker table said this about my girlfriend and didn't know it was my girlfriend, I would take it as a compliment. There were actually guys at my table discussing your wife at the 3 to 5 game, saying how hot she was, and I was sitting there smiling.
Who? I mean, Adam. Don't they know I'm a poker room brawler? I'll kick some ass.
I actually kind of coyly said at the end that that's my buddy's wife. Oh. But I mean, I don't know. That wouldn't bother me. I would take it as a compliment.
No, I
don't know
do
about
take it
you.
as a compliment.
Yeah. 10 deuce deuce here on the flop, and your wife is pretty.
Pretty.
Yeah. Look at Scott Huff's got a diamond draw here. Call with 4-5 of diamonds. 10 deuce deuce here. Now side check the 10, and Scott's going to bet into the diamond draw. Now this is somewhat of a dry draw to bet into on a paired board. He is in late position. There's only one player, so I don't mind the bet.
I love the bet.
I wouldn't necessarily bet in there, Dave, from up front into 7 or 8 players. I'd want more working.
Why?
Sai is going to call.
Why would you want more working?
Because that's
who is going to call you?
Because that's a garbage draw against 7 players.
Who
Now, it
is
makes
going
the flush.
But who is going to call you? Why isn't that a good semi-bluff, Bart? If I have 4 and 5 diamonds here, and I'm in first position, I'm under the gun, and I remember that means I'm in the blind, right? And I bet into everybody. Who is going to call me?
Let's see here. Scott's going to bet 150.
Yeah, and Sai is almost drawing dead. He needs a 10 or a deuce to win this hand.
And Sai's asked for time.
You can see that he's only has 9% chance of winning this hand, and that's because he has 2 deuces to catch, and one of remaining 2 10s. He has 4 cards he can catch, and that's it.
Obviously, can't beat a deuce. He can't beat any better 10, Dave.
I mean, the reason now, if the board was, say, king 10 deuce, I'd be less apt to actually bet it, but 10 deuce deuce, the odds of anybody having a deuce out there are pretty slim. And if I bet into it,
and people
and a
know
pretty
that.
good, well, yeah, exactly. First of all, I'm Scott Huff, and I bet into it out of the blind.
Wow, the river was a deuce. Sai would have made the best hand.
Right, but let's say I bet into you, okay?
Right.
And you have 10-8, but I'm Scott Huff now. And I bet into you, and you have 10-9 or Jack 10 or 10-8. Do you really want to get involved?
Right. No, I see your point about that. I mean, because, you might pick a better spot. Oftentimes, I think you would lay down that hand to me as well.
I don't want to call with 4 or 5 diamonds. See, the thing I don't want to get into is I don't want to check 4 or 5 diamonds there, and then it goes around, and then somebody in late position just takes a shot at it with no hand, and then I'm end up calling.
Right.
But I can bet with that hand, and if I get called, well, then I can reevaluate it.
No, I do see your point, but I just don't think that is the type of flop you're looking for with 4 or 5 of diamonds.
Of course not.
Now, I like to put money in with kind of better draws, kind of two-way draws, working like that.
I guess it's. I mean, to me, I only look at a flop like that of 10 deuce deuce, and I go, how could this flop really have hit anybody else strong?
Right.
And if anybody calls me, I know I'm dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know exactly where everybody's
Wow,
at.
look at this flop here. Israel's got ace queen, Sai's got a flush draw and a gut shot to the 8. And George is going to bet out as a bluff. Israel raised. George is going to bet 75. Like, you mean like leading out into this flop with deuce 5 of diamonds?
Yeah. I mean, that's just a pure naked bluff.
And Israel calls here, I believe. Now, Sai's hand is almost good enough to check raise all in. He's kind of short. It's probably almost like a check raise all in for value here.
I have no problem check raising for value here.
Yeah, and that's
what
what he's gonna do.
And I like to play. He figures out minimum he's got 9 clubs, plus 3 8s. He's got at minimum 12 outs.
Now, obviously, George is going to fold here, and I guess it becomes, well, Israel here. It's going to be 205, and the pot is about maybe 500. So Israel's going to get about, I want to say, 2-1 on his money. I guess you hope the guy has ace-jack or he's on clubs, and you probably make the call with the stack sizes of these size.
Yeah, I think so.
And he does call.
And you can see it's pretty much a coin flip here, and that's why I like size play.
Turns at 3, so I need a club or an 8, and the river's a club, and Sai gets there.
Yep. And it's going to look like a bad beat. Everybody looks like, oh man, the guy made the flush, and you don't realize that with the additional outs to the gut shot.
Right.
It was literally a coin flip there.
Yeah.
And with the dead money in there, pushing in with Sai's hand was really the proper play. You got to be willing to gamble a little bit and no limit hold'em.
Got a post here by Kev Finerty. He said, "Whatever happened to Jesus? Jesus actually played with me this afternoon.
Did he
5-10
really?
game, yeah.
Jesus?
Yep, Jesus. And the Iceman. Well, that's an interesting question for Barry
Who's
Woods.
the Iceman?
Remember that guy Ice? His name was Brian, and he nicknamed himself Ice. I think he went home to Alabama, or something like that. I think he went broke.
I don't remember.
Busto. You don't remember Brian Ice?
I see so many players that come in here, play for like 2 months straight, then go broke, and then I don't see them for 6 months.
I don't blame you.
And then they come back.
Buttons moved over here to seat 6, Sylvester.
I do not blame you.
Once again, we're going to get Scott Huff in here in about I want to say about 45 minutes or so.
Right.
And I'm going to ask him a few questions. If you have any questions that you want to ask Scott Huff, now Scott Huff is the guy who he writes for Card Player. He also does the Circuit, which is kind of it's a radio show on cardplayer.com. And if you have any questions for Scott, email them to us and we'll ask them.
Look at this raise here by
Please make it 6.
Eric. 15 more with pocket threes. I guess he's trying to build the pot up here. 5-way action, $75 pot. Here we go to the flop. King, queen, 7 with a couple of spades. And look at size hand. He's flopped top and bottom.
Yeah.
And Eric, I mean, okay, if you pot build with pocket threes, how do you lead out into that flop for 40?
What are you
I just
talking
don't
about?
get it.
You don't like that? I mean, the problem, okay, you've got to also look at the texture of that board.
Yeah.
If you get called, how do you know if your opponent has a king, a queen,
Spade
jack
drop.
10, or spades? I mean, it's-
Sai should really raise here. He's got king 7. We don't have it up there. King of diamonds, 7 of hearts.
yeah, and he's going to raise
it
right
up to
away.
140.
And I like the play. And that'll probably get George out of the hand. And that'll probably win the pot. I mean, imagine Eric's going to throw it away now. I mean, there are some times when you have pocket threes, just check and fold. Oh, man.
You're probably not going to raise it to 15 out of the big blind with threes either, right?
Well, if you do, I mean, hey, if you get 8 callers in there, you can
Right.
raise it for value with pocket threes, but just fold when you don't hit your set.
King 7 or queen 7? I think he had a 7.
Butt moves over here to seat 5. Live at the bike. We stream live cash games every Monday through Friday from 7 to 10 Pacific time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night will be 25.50 unrestricted buy-in, no limit hold'em.
You know, I was checking out somebody on 2+2X said that Celine Dion was jamming out to some AC/DC. I guess she was singing AC/DC. Was that for real? Because I love AC/DC.
Yeah, I like
That's a
these, too.
group, man. I love that. When I was playing hockey in college, we used to our song that we would warm up to at home was Thunderstruck,
Yeah.
and it was such a song that would pump you up. I love that.
Look at this. Scott has raised to 25 in the early position here with ace-4 of hearts. A little bit questionable here. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot questionable.
No, that's a hand that
Probably shouldn't even really be playing that hand.
yeah. In a game like this, I don't mind limping in. I mean, if you're gonna play it, you can limp in there, throw it away to any raise.
Now, Sai's got pocket jacks. Now, this is interesting. Sai is going to raise here with jacks, and in this case, it's the right play. But if there's ever a time that I'm going to smooth call in the blind with jacks, it's probably to Scott Huff's under-the-gun raise.
The problem is, you got to realize, though, Scott Huff has had 2 under-the-gun raises, and he's shown both hands. One was pocket 6s and one was pocket 8s. So you can't necessarily give credit to Scott for raising with a monster. Now, raising with ace-4 of hearts in first position, kind of a tournament play, isn't it?
Can we stop that, please?
Well, it is in a sense that, you know, the blinds are only 5-5.
Right.
If you get called, where are you at? You're out of position. That's not really a hand you want to play out of position, is it? I mean, it's not really a hand you want to play even in position. But hey.
Oh, look at that. We got a picture of your wife up on the board.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, it's only proper. Now you can rib Scott about or ask him about when 2+2 started that thread about his girlfriend. Because
Well,
now
it's
you got
funny.
your wife on
They
that
had
thread.
they had his girlfriend on there, and then they had his sister on there, and it started going a little bit overboard. And he actually contacted 2+2 and had them remove the sister one.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, it was a little bit overboard. His sister was getting freaked out by it, and I agree. I was like, you know what,
9-5.
there comes a point where you gotta kind of just okay.
Wow, big flop here for George. Nut clubs, top pair, top kicker, and he's going to bet 25.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
I didn't actually know about the sister one.
Yeah,
I thought the girlfriend one was kind of funny, and then the one about hitting his co-host like Matisau.
right. Well, he didn't mind his girlfriend didn't. He didn't mind because he said, hey, you know what, my girlfriend can handle it. But I guess he took it a little more personal when it was his sister, and he said, you know what, started getting a little freaky. I mean, his sister's
you
a
have
little
any
younger.
sisters?
I have an older sister.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an only child, so I don't relate, but I had a buddy at home that had a really, really cute younger sister, like the type that she was a freshman in high school, and like the prom king or the varsity starting quarterback asked his little sister out to the senior prom when she was a freshman, like that type of sister.
Right. Yeah, see, my sister.
And he went wild. He was crazy about like anybody talking about his little sister.
Oh God, protective little sister.
Yeah,
my sister was older, and my sister's got a big old fat ass. Seriously, she is just. I don't know what happened. She gains weight, it just goes right to her ass.
That's great.
I tell you. One day I'm
Oh,
going to interview
man.
my wife, and she'll tell you it's huge. It's just absolutely enormous. I don't know what is wrong with her.
Sai is raised here out of the small blind with ace king. Four-way action here. And we get about a $100 pot here going in the flop. Well,
Not a
3, 4,
bad flop
5.
for George. Open-ended with a pair.
Yeah.
Oh, wheel for Israel.
Yeah, Israel has flopped a wheel here in seat 2. And that is not a flop to slow play with a wheel.
No, not at all.
Even though, I mean, it's a rainbow board, but obviously a deuce kills you, a 6 kills you.
It's one of the reasons Ace Deuce, out of all the wheel cards, Ace wheel card.
Yeah.
Ace Deuce is my least favorite one.
Yeah.
One of the reasons being 6-7 is a hand people like to play. 6-5, 5-4. And you've got to be cautious there.
200 total.
And look at this. Look at this. Sai calls with ace king, and George is going to raise. He's going to raise 200, and I think with the stack sizes like this, Israel's probably going to just push here.
Yeah, he's got to push.
I'd imagine it's just a push.
Come on, move it in there.
Yep. Well, any ace wheel card will never make a nut straight. You
No.
know that, right?
Yeah, but Ace 4 has got a lot more value because the flop comes out. Let's say the flop comes out 3, 5, 6.
Right.
Well, now you got to put somebody on like some sort of like gap-suited connector.
Israel just calls here. He's just going to call.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess all the money's going to go in anyways, but you wonder if he might scare himself. Could he scare himself away from the pot? Size out of there.
What if a 6 comes off?
Yeah.
It's safe, but how does he know that?
Right. 200 left for Israel. Here we go to the turn. Turns a 3. And look at this. George makes trip 3s. And George calls. All in a call. And the river's
And there it is.
4.
Look at that. And George makes full house.
But George fills up on the river. He's got 3s full of 4s. Well, I
Yeah.
guess all the money would have went in anyways.
Wow, and George, he had picked up a lot of outs on the turn there. Any 5, any 4,
Yeah.
any 6, any 7, and any deuce, and he wins that pot.
Right. And it looks like Israel there is done.
Yeah, and George doubles through again. Man, he's on fire tonight. Absolute fire. You just got to start thinking of hands, though. I mean, like I was saying, if you have ace 5 or ace 4, ace 3, and you flop a wheel, somebody else has to have some sort of odd combination to have a higher straight than you. But if you have ace deuce, the flop comes out 3, 4, 5. You show me a no-limit hold'em game where people don't like to play 6, 7.
Right.
Any
You know?
two cards are
I know,
live.
I agree.
And George is really on a rampage over
Yeah,
there.
he's crazy.
Gus is going to raise here with ace king of diamonds here out of early position. He's under the gun. Email here from Dave Steffens talking about a tell that he's
I
picked
would
up on
have
Scott
smoked his
Huff.
hand before he even
Really? Well, you know what?
Before he even opened his
I'll
mouth.
ask him that when he comes in.
Yeah. It's like beginner moves.
Yeah, we're heads up here. 7-5-3 here with a couple clubs. Well, check here on the flop turns a 6. And this one just gets checked down.
I think Sai makes a straight, doesn't he? No, he
No,
doesn't.
he didn't. Ace King's going to take it down there.
No, Sai made a straight. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, he did. Didn't bet there.
And he
on the
checked it
turn.
down the whole way.
I don't know.
What are you hoping? Are you hoping for a flush?
No, I was hoping a couple of...
She would have come.
Thank you. That seat's good for me. Whoever sits here, no.
Got a little under an hour left in the show. Again, Scott Huff will be coming in here with about maybe 20 or 15 minutes left in the show.
A couple of good questions here from Will in Chicago. We'll throw them at Scott's way.
Yeah. You have to put me in right there. I mean, once I raise the 200...
Again, you can visit our MySpace page, myspace.com.
You have to forgive me, actually, when Scott does come in the booth
I thought I had the best...
and I ask him a few questions, I'm probably going to ignore the game to a large extent.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
25.
But as I always say, though, when I have a
Yes.
guest in here, we got a raise here by Scott Huff with ace 8 of spades. And I was saying this for Isaac's benefit, but he's just actually gotten up out of the room. It's a little bit more convenient because I know I've done a lot more interviews
In the booth.
in the booth to actually have the game on the background and treat it as an audio interview as opposed to having it on you. Because then people can follow the game in the background while following your audio interview.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But I mean,
Definitely.
is he out of the room so he's not going to kill me? He tends to keep the picture here.
He wants to put the spot on you. man.
Right.
Put you right on the spot there. See what you can come up with. Be witty.
King, queen of diamonds here for seat 3. And Gus looks like he just limped in here.
But then the turn comes on the 3. Now I have trips.
$20 raise. Actually, out of the big blind. Gus is in the big blind here.
It was even worse than the other one.
And he's going to take it down.
It was worse than the other
Take it down.
So again, I mean, Huffy's up hundreds of dollars and has not played many hands.
Yeah, he's having a good go of it. Now, seat number 2 is also a tournament player. He plays a lot of tournaments. I've seen him, and he's done quite
I
well
think he might have flopped.
in a lot of tournaments. I know Ronnie's familiar with him. Any background on his play, Ronnie?
Yeah, he's good.
wasn't bad.
And I could have 2 pair, make a full house on it. Wonderful.
Yeah, from what I'm getting from Ronnie is, you know, he's a pretty solid, tight player, but he will play his position and will, you know, use his aggressive nature when he's in position.
Got a raise here by seat 6.
Would you get upset if I
Ace
call
9
with a bad
off
hand?
suit.
Oh, it's him.
Looks like he's under the gun here. And Sai's call with a 6-3 suited. And we're heads up. Ace 5 Jack here. Well, Eric's hit top pair. Oh man, what is going on with these two guys?
Check it down. Who got the lower? Who got a pair of 4s?
I got to tell you,
Donna, please direct these two gentlemen to the sign outside that says no soft playing on Live at the Bike. Seat number 6 and seat number 8.
yeah.
We definitely have a big enough board here where we don't need any of that on the show.
No, obviously, I can only assume we actually had our Stars and Stripe tournament today was a pot limit hold'em tournament. One James Woods was actually in the house tonight for that
okay.
one, playing in that one. And tomorrow's tournament, like you mentioned before, big tournament. We've got a no limit hold'em $300 entry tournament starting at 4:15 p.m. Probably going to be well over $100,000 prize pool. Should be great. Get here early if you want to play in that one.
What in the garbage?
And if you play and you don't do very well, and I'm sure the cash games will be going on all night.
Gus is going to raise here on the button a 40 with King Jack off suit after several limpers.
Gut shot on him. He went in there.
And Sai's going to call him here. 6-5 of clubs. Out of position. Heads up. And again, I don't think Gus has enough money for Sai to make this call. Wow, he's flopped the flush draw here. Now, this is a dry flush draw. Now, it is heads up.
Yes.
It plays a little bit different.
And when
But
you
you
say
wouldn't
dry flush
necessarily
draw-
be leading into 7 players on a flop like that.
Right, and when you say dry flush draw, obviously there's no other draw.
Yeah.
If you hit a pair, it's probably not good.
Well,
And
now he's picked up a gut shot to the 3, and it goes check, check. And the river's a 10. Now, is Sai going to bet bluff at it now? He missed his draw.
I was on the flush.
No.
Another time I'm really
Jack
surprised Gus did not bet the turn. I mean, I got to tell you, a board of Jack Queen with 2 clubs out there, the guy check calls in the original. I'm going to bet with King Jack there. And then I'll probably check it down on the river.
Free showdown, right?
Yeah, I don't want to give my opponent a free river card.
Button's going to move to seat 4. And that is Sylvester, who has somewhat been kind of remarkably quiet over there. Eric has got an ace-queen here in the small blind.
25.
And we're going to see a $25 raise here by new player Gary with ace-9.
Raise 75.
And a re-raise by Eric. I got to tell you, this game has really moved pretty aggressively tonight
Yeah.
compared to like last week's game, which was almost miserable.
You know, obviously the game is obviously
And Gary gets away from it.
we have to. Nice play by Eric here. We never know who's going to show up. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's funny whenever we get kind of like Barry Wood's home game here, and we get like Jay Siegel here and Chester here and players like that. They're all great guys, but none of them make for great TV.
Oh, I think that Chester actually plays his position really well. I wouldn't
I
call him
love
in that tight.
I love watching Chester, but there's not really like. I mean, I guess the game just doesn't move along that well.
Well, it's also they're doing shenanigans at the table, remember, too.
Right.
And those guys are some of our core fans, so.
No, there's nothing wrong with the guys.
Yeah.
20.
Got a
But I'm not
raise
going to
here.
lie and say they make the best TV in the world.
Right. $20 raise here by Sylvester with ace-jack. Seat 5's going to call with king 10 of hearts. And we're going to see 4-way action here. King 6-8. Well, let's see if Sylvester's going to fire here. I mean, ace-jack's totally whiffed. He doesn't have ace-jack of diamonds. Chris actually has top pair, but boy, I got to tell you, if Sylvester fires into me here, and I got 3 people from up front, well, it gets checked to him, and he's going to bet.
Yeah, and you know what? Chris has really not gotten out of line all night.
I was going to say, if you're Chris in that spot and Sylvester fires into you, do you get involved with king 10?
Oh, man.
with three. Remember, you got 3 people behind you from up front as well.
Yeah, you really get tough. You're in a tough spot there. You might mini raise, you might call one time, but like you said, it is a tough spot.
Yeah. Button moves over here to seat 6. Interesting little pop-up video style thing by Jaybird up here.
Yeah.
Your wife. That's a
Yeah.
good picture. Good. Is that a headshot she uses? Black and white?
It was one of her headshots, I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Pocket queens here for Joe. Card player College Joe in the small blind. Looks like there's a little bit of a raise here. Is there a little raise there by Sylvester? Pocket deuces. And Joe's going to make it 50 to go. And Sylvester cannot call this with his stack size and with Joe's stack size.
No, definitely not. When you're calling with a speculative hand and you're looking for possibly for the implied odds, you have to be aware of your own stack size and your opponent's. It's pretty easy lay down for Sylvester here, but might he throw the money in anyway? He's in position. Does he think maybe this guy's got jacks or queens or kings? And does he think, well, if an ace flops, can I take it away from him?
Wow, he calls.
Well,
Wow.
if he's playing it that way, then you can kind of look at it and go, well, hey, I have 4 aces as outs.
Well, how about middle set here for Joe?
Well, there you go. But I was going to say, if an ace comes off or a deuce comes off, well, that's something I have 6 cards to root for.
And Joe's going to bet 50.
Wow, and he bets right into it. And that's a terrible flop. Now, this is a guy in the blind raising.
Right.
The worst hand he probably has here is a pocket jacks, right?
Right. It's funny you were saying that Scott got insulted by the sister comment, the sister posting.
I don't think he was insulted as much as he was just being a protective brother.
Like, if somebody posted up, would you hit this, Tuckman's wife? Would you be...
Yeah, I'd probably ask not to put it up. Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's up to if my wife was offended by it, yeah, I would take it off.
And you think your wife would be offended by
I don't
it?
know. I'd have to ask her.
Not something to talk about.
It's not something I'd be offended by,
Right.
but
I just screwed him.
Live straddle here by seat number 1.
All gonna close to me right now. Actually, what usually happens is one raise, one.
And Scott Huff has picked up ace-queen in the big blind here, Dave. It's interesting because I haven't seen him pick up a hand like these high Broadway with the ace yet. This is actually one of the first. See how he's going to play it. Now, it is a straddle pot, which means there's dead money. And it's probably in order for a raise, and he does raise.
Okay, raise 30 more.
He's going to make it 30. And if I was George here, I would call with a very weak holding in position against Scott.
yeah, thinking that
I have position on him, and we're both deep stacked. Now, he calls with a jack-8 offsuit. I might just not get involved with that hand. That's a little too weak.
that's. Well, I'd rather it be 8-6 than Jack
Right.
8.
The flop comes Queen Jack 3, and 10
Yeah.
deuce of clubs is in their side. And Huff is going to lead here with Ace Queen. He raised it pre-flop. It's a $90 pot,
Yeah, and I like the continuation bet here by Scott.
75.
and he kind of sloppily puts the bet in there, which sometimes means somebody's bluffing, but in this case, he actually has the best hand. He's going to bet 75.
He might be sloppily putting the money out there just because he's not very coordinated.
Yeah, that's kind of like me sometimes when I put it out there.
People always think,
Yeah.
Bart's bluffing. Look at him. He can't put the chips in there. No, he's just not very athletic.
Yeah. Is George really going to get involved with this?
Well, he might. I mean, he's remember he called. No, he's not. Okay.
Yeah.
And you imagine Scott's going to take this down here.
Yep.
And I like the way Scott played the hand. I mean, some people could say, well, why not check it and let the guy get there? But you don't know he has Jack 8. What if the guy's in there with King 10 or 10 9, and he gets it straight, and then you go broke? It's funny when you have a wife or a girlfriend, or in Scott's case, a sister and a girlfriend who are doing that kind of post to. It's always a fine line between humor and taking it too far.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm all for humor.
Let's take a look at a chip count here.
Oh, there we go. $6,000 on the table. George has got almost $2,000. Scott up to $1,200. Wow. Eric, $350. And the difference is here. George up over $1,300. Scott up over $700. Man. And Cy is only down $200. Now, the few players that actually have lost have actually gotten up and left. Seat 2 has kind of been the death seat. I would say seat 2 alone is probably down $1,500.
We get a raise here by seat 6. He's got pocket jacks, and Cy is going to call with 5-6 of hearts. Now, again, though, the issue is, does seat 6 have enough for you to call 40 with the suited connector? I usually want to have probably 15 to 20 times that amount to make.
Yeah.
And I don't think he has 800 or so there.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
the only thing here is
600 or
now,
so.
you're getting another call in there, though. Now you got 2 players in there. If you hit, you might get money from both players. Well, he
Set it.
hasn't hit, but Sylvester
Now,
has.
See how Sylvester's going to play this. Is he going to bet right into... No, he checks it.
150.
And look at he shakes his head. And I think he's trying to get Eric to commit himself with an overpair. I think it would have probably worked out the same anyways, Dave.
Yeah, I think Eric's got way too much money in there to get away from this one now.
Sylvester moves all in. And with these stack sizes, I think you have to call.
And you know what? Now, in deep stack, we like betting into it. In this game, when you're a little shorter stacked, sometimes that's not the worst play.
You might induce a bluff from ace-king as a continuation. Bet. That's what I
Exactly.
always say.
And sometimes they commit themselves with ace-king.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes you turn as a deuce and jacks need a jack and it doesn't come. Yeah, that's why, it's interesting. We talk about ace-king, we talk about other hands. In this game, you actually can play a little bit backwards against a pre-flop raiser. Say a pre-flop raiser who only has 200, Dave, has raised it up, say, to 30. And I've got pocket jacks or pocket tens in the blind. Nice smooth call. And the flop comes out racks. I am probably going to check raise him in. Yes, I give the risk of him taking a card on the turn, but I don't necessarily want to bet and have him fold either. It's a kind of a unique situation in these restricted buy-in games.
Yeah,
right?
now if you're George in seat 1 and Scott in seat 9, this game no longer plays short stack. They're both deep enough where they really should play it deep stack poker. But when you are short, you want action from ace-king if you have a set or an overpair. You want them to commit themselves.
Cy limps in here. Scott Huff's got a suited ace. He's going to raise. And look at George. He's got kings in seat 1.
Yeah. Now, this is a case where I don't mind the raise. He's raising on the button. And I just don't like raising like that hand under the gun.
And, I always talk about the fact that, say Scott had raised here with 7-8 of diamonds or 6-7 of diamonds. I think you might call the re-raise if it's not a big re-raise.
Definitely.
But with ace-8 of spades, I just don't really see how you're going to win a big pot with that.
Well,
off of a
let me
re-raise.
throw this at you. Is there any way, would George be making this re-raise with ace-queen or ace-king?
I think he could be. And now Jack-10 of spades calls.
Well, if he's making this raise with ace-king or ace-queen, could you call it literally to hit 2-pair or trip 8s?
Right.
It's only 50 more, and you're looking at the implied odds. I'm putting in 50 to possibly win 1,500.
Well, maybe to win 1,500. I got to tell you, for me to flop, to put this guy, and in this case he doesn't have that. For him to have ace-king and I have ace-8, and I want to hope to flop 2-pair aces up against his ace with the big kicker, I got to win probably close to 50 times that raise amount. I almost got to be deeper than what these guys are at.
I have no problem.
You know
I have no problem with laying down ace-8 there. Obviously, it's a pretty garbage hand.
Wow, let's see if Cy gets involved here. He's got top pair.
We've seen Cy get in trouble before, and it looks like George is in great shape.
$200 raise, or $200 bet here by George. Now, if I had Cy's hand on the button, it would be an easy call to the re-raise on the blind.
Oh, of course.
But ace up and down suited.
No, I'm with you on that.
So many things have to happen. You have to be so deep, Dave.
I'm with you on that. I mean, oftentimes if I'm against a real weak player, I'll give you a player like Tony, Italian Tony, who raises with ace-queen or something like that, who can't get away from even pocket queens when an ace flops. Sometimes I'll do it, and there it is.
Look at this. Cy's going to move in, and it's a quick call here by George. And if George doesn't get unlucky here, he's going to win another almost $1,000 pot. Turn is a 9.
Terrible card there. Need a jack and only a jack.
Yep. Kings are good.
Yeah, that 9 on the turn actually really killed Cy, because obviously a 10 would no longer be good because George would have a higher 2-pair.
I'll throw something else at you about that ace up and down suited to win a big pot. The other thing, too, is if all those things work together, Dave, and I flop 2-pair, and the guy flops 1-pair, against a good player, if I've re-raised with ace-king suited and you've called me with ace-8 and the flop comes ace-8 deuce, are you going to win my money when I have ace-king?
Not you.
No way.
No, not you, but against certain players you might.
Right.
I mean, I know some players that cannot get away from ace-king, ace-queen. They cannot.
Just on an ace dry board, just with one pair.
Cannot get away from
that. But I'm saying there's so many things that have to happen for that to work.
No, definitely.
I don't mind the way down and all there by Scott.
I mean, I'd much prefer him to have 6-7 suited than ace-8 suited.
Button moves over here to George, and he is crushing the table. Yeah, he's got close to 2,000 now, doesn't he?
He's up over. Yeah, he's actually up now, probably close to 1,700. He's probably got 2,300 now in front of him.
This is when I would probably color up. I mean, he can barely has enough room for all his chips there, Dave.
Yeah.
4-way action here, limped around. Queen, Jack 3 here with a couple of clubs.
Guy makes a bonehead call with ace 9 or something.
On a piece, he got the money back. Oh, got it. He'll play.
Not in bad.
Check me.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I could have very easily lost the hand.
Queen Jack 3 here. It looks like it got checked around. Turns a 5. Third club. And Gus,
Best hand is still
Gus is going to come out and bet with King 5.
George. Still the best hand here now. George got a 6, a 5. I'm sorry. Gus actually
Gus.
has King 5.
Yeah, Gus bets here with King 5. And he's going to take it down.
Baron Vangertot says, "Hey, 2 urgent questions. What's with Tuck's necklace?
You had me out kicked
I've been wearing this necklace for quite a while. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Anyway, it's the necklace my wife gave it to me a while ago. I like it. And is Tuck starting a grunge band? No.
Yeah, you're
no,
like
no.
straight out of the early 90s there.
Yeah, this is actually a shirt from the early 90s.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. It's soft. You know, Arby is in seat number 6, taking over for Eric.
Chopped up here.
You know what's funny, too? I mean, and Pojato sits here and goes, hey, he was quoting us from last week. He says, hey, is there going to be a day, and I think he was quoting you when you were talking to me. He said, is there going to be a day where you don't alienate someone in our core audience? And it's funny when you talk about possibly, like, you know, somebody saying, hey, do you take offense to them putting up a picture to your wife? And I go, no, I don't take anything personal.
Right,
Ever.
right.
I'm not a very sensitive guy, obviously. If I'm going to give
Obviously.
if I'm going to give people shit, you know, if I'm going to give everybody all the shit I give them, I have to be able to take it. And I certainly
absolutely.
can. I have no problem with
Absolutely.
it. But I'm still going to be protective over people I love, which is a different thing. So,
How sweet.
yeah, isn't it?
$35 raise here by George with 6-7
Blah, blah,
offsuit.
blah, 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 blah.
And he's going to take it down. And once again, now George has got a lot of chips, and he's really starting to take command of his table.
Well, like I said before, you know, when he gets chips, his aggressive style really, really can dominate a table. He's one of those players, his swings are big, though. You know, he can easily go through 2 buy-ins very quickly.
Usually people, like, last time I was here,
Button's going to move here to seat 4, Sylvester. Again, it was kind of been somewhat quiet, kind of made an ill-timed move about an hour ago that cost him some money.
Yeah.
you know, like,
Now, it's funny.
you know when you
Now,
never
here
get
you
people,
see-
when it's the 500 players that are
You
playing.
see that Scott is throwing away Jack 10 there, in kind of middle position. And earlier he raised with Ace 4 suited.
Right.
And you kind of wonder if the values are a little bit backwards there. I mean, I actually like Jack 10 better than Ace 4
Oh,
suited.
of course, yeah. 4-way action here. Ace, King, Jack here on the flop. We got an Ace 6 over here. Seat 6 is going to lead out right here with the weak ace. I think that, you know, frame of mind, Dave, where, say, the Ace Rag suited cards, especially suited cards, somewhat overvalued, you know, over, say, 5-6 suited, which, you know, should be way up there in your starting hand selection versus Ace Rag, can directly be attributed to probably like TV poker, specifically probably the World Poker Tour. You know, 4, 5, 6-handed tournament play, escalating blinds, shove all in, and people just, you know, they haven't really made the transition, obviously, you know, in their heads. And as we've actually pointed out on the show sometimes, even with tournaments, Ace Rag. All right, we got a raise here with pocket kings by George, and C2's got Ace King.
Yeah.
Ace Rag isn't that far ahead of any hand unless you've got the bottom card dominated with
We
your
always
ace.
talk about Ace Rag. You generally are going to win a small pot
Yeah.
or lose a big one.
Gary just smooth calls here with Ace King, and
Oh, wow, there's the ace.
there's the ace. Ace 3-5 here. Not
Well-
the card that George wanted to see.
Nah, you know what, though?
George checks, and Gary's going to bet right away 50. And is George just going to easily get away from it here?
Well, I got to tell you, kings are garbage there.
No, there you go. Gary shows him.
You know, nice laydown by George. I mean, I know it seems like a pretty obvious laydown, but we've seen better players go broke with that hand. For whatever reason, they get stubborn.
Well, you know, it's funny. Ronnie was telling me Gary's an experienced tournament player. And, you know, Gary taking a page out of the kind of the cash game book there, smooth calling with Ace King. Obviously, Ace King in a cash game isn't, you know, necessarily a hand that you're going to re-raise with like you might in a tournament. Some people live and die by pushing with Ace King.
Definitely. I mean, it really, Ace King is just what it is. It's just a drawing hand that really puts you in a tough spot. I actually played a 10-20 game last night, and I was in a hand against Mo where I raised in late position with Ace King suited, folded around, and Mo re-raised me 3 times my raise with pocket queens. And I thought about it for a second. I actually considered throwing it away, and I decided in position that I could call him. Flop came out 9 high, he bet, and I had to throw it away. But you got to, Ace-king is just that. It's just a drawing hand.
Got a raise here by Gary with ace-10 of hearts. Sylvester smooth calls with ace-queen. Ace-10 of clubs is out there. And look at that. Scott's in there with king-7 of hearts. Let's see how he plays it. He checks it from up front here, Dave. 7-3-3 on the flop. And seat number 6 on the button, he's going to bet ace-10. How is Scott going to play it?
I think Scott needs to. Now, the board is not draw heavy. You've got to realize that there's not necessarily any urgency to raise this. But at the same time, there are a lot of scary cards that could come off.
Might you have led out there and see where you're at?
I probably would have laid out, because the problem is he's now committing a lot
Yeah,
of
he's going to
chips.
check raise here with king-7.
The problem is now, what happens if one of these players has 9s or 10s or jacks? You've now committed a lot of chips. Now, in this case, I think everybody's going to fold and he's going to win the pot. But let's just say, for example, RB had 10s here, and RB smooth calls you.
Right,
And the turn comes off a blank. Then what do you do?
right. Well, devil's advocate, is there ever a case, and I don't think Scott is doing this, but is there ever a case where, by check raising here, you actually get a hand out like pocket 8s or pocket 9s?
You could, but oftentimes somebody with pocket 8s or pocket 9s will call one time and see if you fire again.
And Arby, you know, it's funny. You wonder if Scott was paying attention. I've been saying all night that Arby has not shown a lot of post-flop aggression.
Well, that's
unless
because
he's
RB
had it.
hasn't been in the game. That was actually
Oh, that
Eric.
was there you go. You know, I got confused because that guy's got a hat on, too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not a Red Sox hat, but he looked kind of similar to the other guy, too, didn't he, a little bit?
A little bit similar.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. In the two hands he was playing, he didn't show any aggression.
Yeah. It's a wise ass.
See, I don't know why people get mad at me. I don't think I'm antagonistic at all.
Camby Man has emailed us an important question. Exactly how do I get those Shauna Hyatt photos? If you actually Google Shauna Hyatt, there's
How
like,
hard could it be?
Well, there's an unofficial Shauna Hyatt website. I think it's like ShaunaHyatt.org or something, and they're free, and you can just go there, just Google it. It's easy, and they are great pictures.
I mean, not to alienate our viewer there, but Camby, come on, buddy. What is this, your first day on the internet? How do I find something? Google.com, Yahoo? I mean, come on.
Got an email here from Tina Lugay. We haven't seen her in a while. Wanted to say hello and let you know I've been watching the last few days. Been traveling for work and unable to catch the webcast as of late. Love the improvements. Thanks, Tina. 10-6-3 here on the flop. I believe it was limped around.
One of our favorites, Tina.
One card, boom.
There you go.
Turns an ace. Doesn't really help anyone.
Scott's picked the flush draw. Let's see if he bets it. No, he's not going to bet it.
And here it
It's a
comes.
good story.
A diamond.
Boom.
And there, he's made backdoor diamonds. And
Now,
now
who
it's
called the diamond?
Liar, man.
Who actually called to the diamond?
Somebody said you have a huge drawing.
I know Scott
I
bet
think
it,
it was
obviously.
Sylvester who called for it.
Did Sylvester call for it?
Yeah. He's not going to get paid off here.
No. And he shows.
Look at that. Jack 9. I had the same exact hand.
Take it down, Scott.
Yep.
How come you ended up winning that one?
Nice win here for Scott.
How the hell did he win that one? I
Did
had
Scott just call for setup?
No.
Oh, come on. No way. Did he?
No, I don't think he did.
Oh, okay.
Card Player magazine. I gotta tell you, Card Player really puts out a good magazine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as, what they're trying to do. I mean, you read a lot of the other magazines like Poker Pro or Bluff or some of the other ones, and they're just like, they don't kind of, there's not an even match of entertainment with education and kind of information. Card Player really kind of, they walk the fine line. It really does. They do a good job. It's the one magazine that I never miss.
Got a little $15 raise here by seat 5. Gary has called, and seat 1 is called here with deuce 5. What a flop for Chris. Full house. Kings full of 3s in seat 5, and he was the raiser. He checks it in position. Turns a third heart. Nobody has a heart.
45, take it, man. Take it. I don't take a chance.
Now again, this is an example, Dave, of why you would probably bet with king 3 on the flop. Try to get some money in there. Maybe get a call from like pocket 7s. Now a heart comes, pocket 7s wouldn't call. And you try to build the pot up with anybody else with trip kings. You know, it's funny. You might overbet the flop knowing that you can only get called by a king so that you can build the pot up.
Right.
I mean, that might be strange, and you might see, well, he's like betting twice the pot with a flop full house. Trying to build the pot up with a hand they probably only knows can be called with a king, right?
Right. Sometimes overbetting the pot is the best way to make money.
Yeah. Button moves over here to George in seat 1. Scott Huff will be in here in about 10, 15 minutes or so. Probably play one more round or something like that.
I've had about 14 of these stupid energy drinks, so I'm probably like quite high,
Wired up.
pretty much.
Last couple seconds there to email you any
3 planes.
questions you might have.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions. I've got to figure out which ones to ask them now.
Jack 4-7 rainbow here on the flop.
20.
And we got a $20 bet here by RB, and he's going to take it down.
Usually I don't.
Interesting question from Matt there.
8-5.
Hey, of all the games you've webcasted and witnessed, who is the craziest, in caps, player you've ever seen? Question from Waldo.
Well, I don't know if this guy's the craziest, but I will point out from some old Live at the Bike fans, if you look way back in the archives, probably back last February when we used to do the 30-60 limit game, that guy that rivered King Jack against Helmuth in the World Series, he played on our show in 30-60 limit, and he was playing his hands blind.
it's pretty
And
crazy.
it was pretty crazy way back when.
I mean, Frank
Action
Mariani's
Racing's
kind of a
friend.
nutty player.
Yeah.
Dimitri's always fun.
Five-way action here. Set of fives here for Chris. Couple hearts out there, and he's going to bet right into the set. He's going to bet 25. I don't think anybody can call him. I
Yeah,
know he
Gary's
has
not
an
going to get
ace.
involved. Everybody folds around.
And he is going to take it down. Here, I'm going to click on these so you can read them
Oh, cool.
right now.
Great.
And go in with some information. Well, of course you know that question. I can tell you, I'm having the worst trouble with this optical mouse the last couple of weeks.
Line.
Yeah, we're in a situation here.
That's what happens when you work on a budget of ours.
Yeah. Button moves over here to seat 3.
20.
And seat 6 is going to raise here to 20. He's got King Jack off suit. Gus is going to call with pocket 3s here.
Good
And we're heads up. King Jack against pocket 3s. Oh, deuce 4-6 here. Oh, Gus has got a gut shot to the 5. Is he going to get involved? He might bet if it gets checked to him. And it does. He bets 20. And a call here by King Jack. Always interesting. Turns a deuce. It's a third spade. Arby's got the second nut flush draw now. And he's going to throw a little bit of a bet out now.
40.
He bets 40. Or 4Ds, as the dealer likes to say.
Gus is really in a tough spot here. Does this guy have a flush? Did he pick up a flush draw?
What did
he call me with?
Wouldn't he have bet out on the flop with a flush draw as a semi-bluff?
Not necessarily. You never know in this game. That's the thing.
Maybe he might have been looking for a check raise or something.
Yeah, some
but he didn't
players
check
don't.
raise. He check called, though.
Right. Well, some players do that with a flush draw.
Flush draw.
And seat number 4 is going to take it down. Button's going to move over here to, or excuse me, seat 6 takes it down. Button's going to move over here to Sylvester.
Was there an ace jumping out of you?
Got about 25 minutes left in the show. Then he can catch us tomorrow night, Wednesday.
Yeah, tomorrow nights, Wednesdays are always a lot of fun.
Where's Scott Huff?
Took a break, apparently.
Oh, he's going to take a break right before he comes in here?
Is that allowed?
Figured we would just get him to do one more orbit.
35.
Raise here from George with 5-6 of clubs.
Yeah.
Nice hand, man. I'm putting on a big bluff on that one.
5, 6
Well, I
o'clock.
didn't realize you were the big blind or small blind.
No.
Weren't you a small blind?
George takes it down there without a flop.
Do you ever get what high?
I get it. Pick up an 8 high.
Oh, that would be a bad beat.
George has really done well here tonight.
Oh,
Stacks of
phenomenal.
yellows are $100.
I mean, he's got literally about $2,300. He's got a funky hat on, and he's got a Lake Tahoe shirt on. I love Lake
That
Tahoe,
is a
man.
funky hat. I've never actually been to Lake Tahoe.
Oh, man, you got to go.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, find yourself a little cutie and take her up there.
Nevada, right?
Well, it's Nevada and California. They're right on the border, right on state line.
If you were to fly there, you'd fly into Reno. Is that right from
You
here?
could fly into Reno. Or I mean, the drive is only 7 hours. It's not a bad drive. But if you want to fly, you fly into Reno.
Been to Reno before?
I have.
What's that like?
Eh,
Nothing like Vegas, I'm sure, right?
Reno's. I mean, I don't like Reno really.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'd rather go to Tahoe and hang out there because there are casinos there. Plus, you got this great lake. You got skiing in the summer. You can go fishing.
Too many possibilities.
There's Huff. He's back. He's going to play with probably one more orbit.
5 tables.
5-way action here. 7, 5, 6. Couple hearts.
Flop straight here for George. He's got the kind of the sucker straight, 8-4.
Yeah, he's gonna bet 40.
Yeah, those 3 gappers there, 8-4. It's kind of a hand like that, Jack 7, hands like that where you can flop a straight, but it's never the nut straight. You've got to really be careful. You don't want to take too much heat here.
Gus has got ace 10 here off suit. I don't really know what the hell he's thinking of.
I'm just thinking of folding.
Now RB has 3-5. He's out. Joe's probably gonna muck.
Yeah, and
him.
George takes this down.
I gotta tell you, one of the funniest lines I remember from The Simpsons. I've seen most of The Simpsons was when
Told you too many possibilities.
it was the I think it was the meteor episode when they all knew that the meteor was gonna come and destroy Springfield, and everybody was down, and Krusty came back and said, "Hey, I'm back from Reno," and then saw everybody kind of was looking depressed. It was like, oh. Oh, The Simpsons just do some. I gotta tell you, and they show The Simpsons in England, but I never understand. I mean, a lot of those are inside American jokes on that show. I mean, I think you miss out on 75% of the jokes if you're not American. Come on, Mayor Quimby?
No, I understand what you're saying, but it's not like we live in this isolated world now where the rest of the world doesn't know about our humor.
But I mean, do you think that, like, say someone from France or some England's going to pick up on Mayor Quimby trying to be like kind of a...
No, I understand what you're saying. Obviously, I would say the English have probably a better chance of picking up on that humor. I mean, we laugh at English humor all the time.
Yeah.
I think we...
25.
Joe's raised here to 25 with ace king. And, wow, George's going to call the king 6 of diamonds.
Now, I got to tell you, if Joe is raising out of the blinds, I'm not calling.
And king 6 is dominated here.
Uh-oh.
Wow. What a flop. Flush draw top pair. And Joe checks the ace king.
You know what, though? This is interesting. Now, George has actually flopped a monster, but he is behind because he shares
And it
top
went
pair with
check,
Joe.
check. Neither player bet on the flop.
Well, Joe is way ahead here, and we'll see when the 7 comes out there. Look at this.
Maybe George kind of sensed that maybe Joe was sandbagging, took the card on the flop, and now he's just called the turn.
And he needs a diamond here, or 6.
And there's the diamond.
100.
100.
Yeah, and Joe quickly calls.
Yep.
And you wonder if George kind of underbet the pot there a little bit.
I think Scott is actually, we're not going to have him take his blind here, Dave. Because I think he's going to come in here. We only got about, I don't know, maybe...
Got like 20 minutes left.
Yeah, 20 minutes left, so he's going to come back here.
Okay.
He lost the minimum.
So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I think you're okay with signing off
Yeah.
on the show. Well, he's not in here yet, but when he does come in here, I'll
I think
say goodbye to
we'll
everybody.
try. It'll be tough, but we'll try to manage the last 20 minutes of the show without the Bartster. What will I do?
Yep.
This will be good practice. You're going to Chicago anyway for a couple of weeks. And there he is, the myth, the legend, Scott Huff.
All right, so I'll say
He's in the
goodbye to
books.
everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the whale game.
I've been raising a lot, so it's cool. I told him he had the best hand pre-flop, did I not? I definitely did not think I had the best hand. Oh, they suckered me in 20 bucks. Please make it like 50. Oh. 50 bucks, I'm gonna have to call.
3 blinds.
Not donate more to you.
Okay, I'm back. I had to switch mics here. God, Bart, you got a huge head. Jesus. In the booth with Scott Huff. How you doing, Scott?
How's it going, man?
Well done, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank
You have fun?
I had a lot of fun, and you missed probably the biggest hand for me of the day, though. My only real
I know
double
we
up.
weren't sure what happened. What exactly transpired?
What transpired, I had king, queen of hearts on the button, and
2
the
blinds.
guy in the, what seat was it now? The 2-seat.
2-seat, okay, so that was Ed.
Raised it up to 25. No, it was the guy even before him. There was
Oh,
another
really?
guy in the
Okay,
two-
wow.
Oh, no, sorry. Hold on. What seat's this here?
That's 6.
Okay, in the 6th seat. He made it 25. I called him on the button, and the flop came king high with 2 hearts,
Okay.
and gave me a gut shot as well. So it was queen 8, 9. of
Queen
hearts.
8-9, okay.
He bet out. I raised him. He shoved in. I called. He had the nut straight. And I basically was at the flush draw and the gutter ball for the shop.
Right.
Rolled the heart, rivered the heart again. So turned the heart, rivered the heart.
Hey.
There you go. Whatever.
It happens to the best of us.
I mean, it's a pretty good flop for my hand. I mean,
Wait,
it's otherwise-
even good players suck out. I mean, I think my only write-ups I've had in all the articles have been you writing up how I've sucked out on Cheryl Hines. So
Oh, that's right, I did.
I keep looking at him, I go, David Tuckman sucked out on Cheryl Hines again.
I've actually gotten beefed more than once for that article. I also mentioned that Phil Luck's only major tournament victory was the WPT Invitational.
Right.
And Phil called me up and let me know that, in fact, he has also won a European tournament and that it wasn't really fair to characterize that. But thanks for reminding everyone in the world of that. So I guess I didn't win any fans with that article. But, you know.
No, I had no problem with it at all. But we've actually had Phil on the show. He was an interesting guy. Now, we've got a bunch of questions for you.
Really?
Yeah, we had all our viewers actually throw in some questions that they wanted to ask the Scott Huff.
The Scott Huff.
Yeah, I'm going to keep kind of like my right eye on the game and see if there's anything really interesting going on.
Well, the guy in the lime green shirt there is my buddy from
It's Joe
who writes for
Stapleton.
Card Player College. That's right, that's Joe Stapleton. He just took kind of a rough one there. With the two
Yeah,
diamonds.
he
The
played it
diamond
really
there.
odd too because the flop came out with a king. He had ace
plays
king.
everything really
He
odd.
checked it. The other guy checked it too because he had a king with a flush draw.
Yeah, he plays things really odd.
Yeah, I mean they both flop monsters. I was surprised all the money didn't go in right on the flop.
Doesn't he look like he's playing for his last like $200 too?
He does,
He kind of
totally.
looks like he's the guy who straggled in here and just found his way on the game somehow. Didn't even reserve a seat, and is playing for the very last of his. Yeah, see. Look at him. He hasn't shaved.
We
This
were
is his new
saying
look.
there's no doubt he actually writes for college card
Yes,
players, you know?
absolutely.
So we figure he can.
I'm not going to
relate.
make fun of his clothes the way Norman Chad would in the booth or something. I'm not going to mention the lime green shirt too much.
It's kind of funny that Norman Chad does that too. I mean, I've actually played with Norman Chad, and not only have you seen the way the guy dresses, but the way the guy looks. I mean,
Yeah,
how he's making fun of how anybody
Oh
else
yeah, he
looks.
wears the
amazes
sweater
me.
vest with like the hair coming out the top and stuff. It's yeah.
You know, he's the kind of guy who's like combing his hair to make it look like he's not balding.
I won't talk about the clothes, but I will talk about my many divorces.
Right.
Because I have been divorced twice.
There you
Just
go.
for those of you out there who, if that was one of the questions, I don't know if that's been rumored on the
You've been
internet.
divorced twice?
2 times, yeah.
Really? George has got
No,
pocket
I'm
aces.
25.
Chris has got pocket
There we
nines.
go.
That wasn't one of the questions. Wow, I had no idea.
No, it's a total joke.
Oh, okay.
I've been divorced 0 times, married 0 times. as well.
You never know. I mean, hey, I was like, okay,
it's possible by
without
25
a
to
doubt.
have been married twice.
definitely. Especially in the poker world, you know.
Indeed, yeah. My cameraman has been married twice for our cardplayer.com videos. He's been married twice.
Is that for
He's
real?
only like 29. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Which one is? George is the one seat.
George
here?
is seat one, yeah. The guy.
Wait, George there is just crushing everything, and now he
he
gets
is
aces
just
as
running
well.
the table over.
Wow.
And now he's picked up aces, and Chris is re-raising here with nines, making it $100 more.
Chris hasn't entered a pot in a while either. He's been playing pretty tight, so for him to be coming over here with the 2 nines, he must be getting fed up here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if I'm George here, I probably, well, I mean, you can play it. He's in position. He can smooth call this. But the way Chris has played, I mean, I'd probably put Chris on kings or queens here, the way he's played all night.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. I couldn't see it be anything worse
And I
than
would
jazz.
probably re-raise him.
How do you think George plays here? Is he going to re-raise him?
I think he's
Oh, he
just
called.
calling.
He did just call.
And he's in position. I mean, that's a way you can play aces here because now Chris has got to bet out into him. And, oh, wow, set over set. Oh,
wow,
man.
this is going to get ugly, ladies
Well,
and
this is,
gentlemen.
I mean, this is just pretty much nothing you can do.
And call.
Double up, okay. Thank you.
This is
Oh,
what a
geez,
day.
set over set. And,
Gamble my ass. Gamble your
oh, Jesus, look at that.
I'm so glad I was.
Oh, George. And we need a 9 here for, no, actually a 9 will not be a jackpot. We need running cards because it's got to be aces full of 10s or higher.
What does the jackpot pay here?
I'm not sure what it is. I think it's like 25K though. But you have to lose
Not bad.
aces full of 10s to 4 of a kind or better. Both whole cards have to play.
If I missed the table share for coming in here, I don't know that I'd be all that happy.
No, you probably wouldn't. I mean, the table share is probably like $1,500 or $1,800. We might have to like divvy up a fund to make it up to you.
What did George do right in a past life here? I mean, this is unbelievable.
Well, you know, his style of play we were talking about before, the way you play, your variance in a game like this, your swings aren't going to be that big. I mean, this is probably going to be one of your better days. But when you lose, you probably only lose a couple hundred. Now, a guy like George, he gambles a lot. So he's either going to win a ton or do nothing.
Right.
You know, I mean, some days he'll lose 2 buy-ins.
Yeah, I played pretty tight today. I let Bart know before I even sat down. I was going to be playing really tight until I got a hold of some chips. Then maybe I'd gamble a little bit. But yeah, the cards were coming well enough that I didn't really need to gamble that much.
No, you
Yeah, for
set
my
over
style.
set over set.
Is that a Liz Lou wallpaper you guys have here?
Bart's got a thing. Bart's got a thing for all Asian women.
Beautiful.
Liz Liu being the top of his list.
Pointing right at you. I don't even. That's some sort of pop star position here.
Yeah, you know, she's like the new rock star here. Okay, so I have to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Okay, first of all, we'll go to the possible tell
Okay.
on Scott. Flop 10, 7, 4. Nobody's got anything. Okay. If I can open this. Okay, here.
Go.
Here it is.
Yeah. he has
This is from
pocket
David of Steffens, okay? And he says that Scott Huff, when he was bluffing, and you missed your draw one time, you had 6-4 of hearts, the board is 5-3, and you kind of check called, check, and then you bet the river with 6 high.
Right.
He says, you may want to mention that to Huff, that when he was bluffing, he cut out his chips very slow and methodically, while when he had a strong hand, he bet out a single large stack of chips very quickly. He did this earlier when he bluffed the river after missing a straight draw. And again, just now when he semi-bluffed on his flush draw. And check this out. Got a hottie in seat number 9. That is, huh?
What happened here?
That's my wife, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She playing my chips? What's going on?
I hope so. She's a good player.
Is she?
Yeah, she can play.
Am I allowed to come in here?
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you ever noticed that tell?
Well, you know, the funny thing is we were just in Vegas over the weekend for the WPT Championship, and we were playing at Bellagio, and I mentioned to my friend Chris, who was trying to get into playing a little bit more cash game action, I was mentioning to him how he cut his chips out. The thing is, I probably did do it next to my stack now that I'm thinking back on it, but I always try to at least throw it out the same way once I've cut them. It's probably my brain trying to think of how I can sell this bluff for what price. It's probably the worst part. I need to predetermine. I think I need to predetermine what I'm going to bet if and when I need to bluff. It's a thinking ahead thing that I don't think I do very well yet. Is getting to that point where I'm thinking maybe 3 steps ahead and what I might do if a scenario comes up like I actually missed. I was so sure I was going to hit that straight that it wasn't going to matter.
Right.
And you would have seen those chips go flying.
Well, I mean, the way you were hitting sets, I figured you'd hit it too.
I know. Well,
it turns out the guy only had
more.
queen high.
Really?
So when you just put a little money out there, yeah, he missed.
Well, I knew he was weak. That was the thing.
Right.
I mean, I didn't think it was a big bluff. I figured that it was going to get him out of the hand. He thought for a while though to call with queen high, possibly. I guess he thought I missed it.
Well, maybe he thought he could make a move on you. You know, re-move back on you. Obviously, he's not going to call you. Okay, another question here from Matt. He says, "Hey guys, love the show. I'm curious to know if I have to be 21 to be eligible for the Circuit's Summer WSOP internship contest. I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants to know. Thanks."
Yeah, actually, we have gotten a few resumes and cover letters, writing samples from people who are under 21, and that is probably not going to fly. Actually, I'm going to have to say it's definitely not going to fly. You'll be in a casino environment one way or another. We're still working on what it's going to be for the World Series, but you will be.
I mean, you're going to be in the Rio no matter what.
Well, I don't know about that, but you'll be involved in poker. Even if we were to like send them out, it just wouldn't look good, and you will have to be 21. I'm assuming this person isn't 21. Sorry. But yeah.
Well, it's probably not for him. It's probably for his friend.
Right. It is Matt's friend.
Right. Exactly.
That's my line, okay?
Okay. Here's another one here. This is a question from let's see who it is. Oh, it's from Jay Siegel. Now, Jay Siegel, we call him the potato. Okay. He kind of looks like a potato. Oh, okay. He's kind of the staple of Live at the Bike. You know, the potato like on your plate, and we call him potato, and he likes it.
All right.
Anyway, Scott says,
question there, potato.
Yeah, when pro players talk about themselves and about how unlucky they are, I never win with ace-queen, I never win a race, I'm so unlucky. Do you think they actually believe that? Or do you think they play their hands in the appropriate mathematical situational way? It just seems somewhat amateurish for pros to play based on lucky beliefs instead of real random card poker. I mean, what is your view when you look at a hand? And there's my wife sneaking into the booth here. I hope somebody shows her where to go. Bart? Anyway, what are your views on I mean, I know you deal with Madison, a lot of these players that always kind of talk about, man, I'm never lucky. I never get lucky. What are your views on that?
What do I make of Madison's whining?
Well, not just Madison, but any other player that kind of whines about it.
I don't really know what to make of it, honestly. I think a lot of poker players do that. I don't know. I feel like amateur or pro or semi-pro, people want to make themselves believe, no matter what, even at the highest level, that they're playing great and that they're just getting unlucky. I mean, as Matiso has said on our show a number of times, he calls Phil Ivey, who's generally regarded as one of the best players in the world, also the luckiest player in the world. And, I don't know if that's overstating it a bit there. Phil's obviously a very skilled poker player, and there has to be some luck still involved. I mean, I don't really know what to make of it. Maybe it keeps them hungry. They feel like they have to play extra well because they're such unlucky players. I mean,
I got to tell you, from my own point, we try to keep this show real. We always say, Live at the Bike, keeping it real, politically incorrect. And I just want to call out some of these guys because, to me, okay, I was watching, I want to say, the 78 World Series of Poker. The one, and I watched a couple of them, Bobby Baldwin. And everybody knows Bobby Walden is one of the the all-time greats of the poker world. And in back-to-back World Series, he got all his chips in with top set on the flop. And both times, he got another player to call him or move their chips in with an overpair. So basically, both times, the other player had 2 outs to win the hand. And both times, they caught it. One time he had, I want to say, pocket 8s, and the board was 8 high, and somebody had queens and caught a queen. And the next year, he had 9s, had a top set of 9s, and somebody had aces and caught an ace. And Bobby Baldwin is interviewed afterwards. And instead of coming off and going and whining about how unlucky he was, he comes up and goes, you know what, that's poker. He goes, there are a lot of plays where I didn't, play perfectly. I made mistakes. And he kind of took responsibility for losing. And it's just kind of a refreshing way. And you almost never see it today where players never take responsibility for their own poker.
I'll tell you who does is Barry Greenstein. I mean,
there you go.
I interviewed him once, and he said that, well, there were hands I could have played better, and, I always try to go back and analyze those hands instead of saying, oh, I went out on this bad beat. If you go out on a bad beat on a short stack, like, I've had it happen in online guarantee tournaments or something, and you get down to a certain situation, and you don't play aggressively enough, and you let yourself get almost stacked off, then you get it in with 2 kings, and you complain when the guy with the ace-jack sucks out on you, but it's like, well, what did I do wrong up until that point that, that let me put myself in a situation where they had to call with the ace-jack and I'm going to get sucked out on? I mean, so that was what Barry was saying, was that you have to go back and analyze your play and be honest about it, and I think he's one of the guys that definitely does it. I'm sure a lot of those really upper echelon pros that make their living really playing poker still, have to be self-analytic like that. Where the guys who are on TV all the time and make their money in other ways, a lot of ways, they can complain, they can cry a song, and
I mean, we always try to point out to people. We get a lot of emails saying, I've been running bad. How do I do it? And I always I've been running bad for 4 months, and I try to point out to people, start owning up to how you're playing. Be honest with yourself. Is it just bad beats for 4 months straight?
Right.
Or are you doing something to contribute to your bad run?
And I'm a huge, what's the word here? I'm really bad about it. I do the same thing. I complain that I'm the most unlucky person in the world, and then eventually I come to terms with it a couple days later that I just played like complete crap.
I mean, that's what usually it is. Okay, here we go. Oh, here it is. Eric Hunter wants to know, what is the best advice that you have heard from any pro on the circuit? I mean, is there one? I mean, obviously that's putting you on the spot in a tough way. Is there something that you've heard that's kind of just, whether it be for life or for poker, is there something that you've heard that's kind of just really stuck with you?
Yeah, I'd say that it's more poker advice than anything. The one bit of advice that's really helped me is just slowing down. I mean, it's really helped my cash games more than tournament play. I haven't played a ton of tournaments since taking over and doing the circuit and doing the video stuff. I haven't really had a chance to play a ton. But in cash games, just slowing down a bit with even big pairs and not going crazy with them, calling a lot more in position. I'd say all of the advice about calling with hands in position and the power of that, the power of position play has been the biggest advantage. I didn't really get a chance to show it off too much tonight, but the other day, Bellagio, a prime example, I called a raise in position with King 5 of spades. It's not a great hand, but I wanted to gamble a little bit. Maybe I'll hit it, maybe I won't. There's a bet on the flop. I flat called again. The turn was a check. I made a big bet, and the guy went away. And those kind of just little, and there are things you could probably learn from any book, but just having them reaffirmed by some of the best players in the world, how important position play is and how to really put it to work for your game. I think that's probably been the best.
There you go. Yeah, we always try to point out, I mean, in early position, we always look for excuses not to play a hand.
Right.
In late position, I'm always looking for excuses to play a hand. I actually thought you played really well tonight. If there was any one hand that I thought was a little questionable, was when you raised, I think, under the gun with ace-4 of hearts. There's one hand I was like, well, that's kind of a hand under the gun. I probably don't even play it, but if I'm going to play it in that position, it was kind of like, wow, in that position it was difficult to play it.
Right.
But, hey.
It would have been difficult unless I hit something. And
exactly.
But I had made a lot of under the gun raises and was getting lucky with them and got paid off a couple times. But raising with suited aces is something that a little bird told me was a good play, and so I figured I'd try it out. And so far tonight, I think I did it 3 times, and someone came over me twice, and I had to pitch it.
Right.
Although, let me ask you a question here.
Go ahead.
Turn around on you. The ace-8 of spades play on the button.
Okay.
Where I raised it up, and the one seed, I forgot his name already.
He re-raised it to 75.
George re-raised it to 75, and then there was a guy cold called 75
Science,
behind.
number 8.
So, yeah. Okay. In that situation, if I was in a gambling mood, I'm not getting horrible odds on my last $50 right there, or on my next 50 to call with the ace-8 of spades, or is that a hand that I'm perfectly okay just ditching?
If you want to gamble, you can play it. You've got to realize that if you hit your ace, you're not necessarily good.
Right.
There's a good chance that one of those players has a bigger ace than you, and you got to be careful there. You don't want to lose, your deep stack, especially seat 1 there, George's deep stack. You don't want to go broke with ace 8.
Right. Absolutely not.
You're looking for spades. You're looking for a couple of 8s. You're looking for 2 pair.
He's got the second nuts.
He's building.
We got another chip down here. George, most money, 3,000. He's up like $2,500.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
He's up a ton. We got almost $7,000 on the table. It's crazy. And let's see how they're doing. I'll let you guys figure it out while I finish the question. There you go. Figure it out for yourself at home. Anyway, so I mean, it's a hand where you've got to be careful. And Bart and I actually went back and forth on it. I go, you can call that, but don't get married to it. Flop comes out like Ace Jack 5, and he bets strong, and you call him one time, and then the turn he bets out strong again. Man, you got to really kind of read him because you don't want to lose a lot of money.
I really did put him on a big pair in that situation. That was the only reason I thought as long as I did. I was thinking, everyone that's watching this is going, this guy's a complete idiot. Why is he sitting there thinking with the ace 8?
No,
I wasn't really Hollywooding. I was really thinking, I think he has a big pair. I really hope it's not aces. And if I decide to make this call, it's exactly what you're saying. I wanted to flop the joint, or else I was probably going to have to be done with it, considering how many chips he has. Just why tangle with him? Why tangle with him right now?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a hand like that, ace 8, we always talk about it, a hand like that generally either wins a small pot or loses a big pot. And you think about it there, he had kings. The guy next to you had jack 10 of spades. Now, it turns out in that one case, if spades comes off, you're going to double up offside.
Right.
But against George in seat 1, if an ace flops without a king, he's probably going to bet one time, and that's going to be the end of it. So you're going to win a small pot.
Right.
The only way you're going to lose a pot is if it comes out like ace king 8, something like that. You can pick a better spot. I mean, I have no problem with the laydown at all.
Okay.
I would rather call actually, let's say 7-8. More of a
Something
gap,
that's
suited
less
connector,
likely to trap
or
you.
small pocket pair
Right.
that you can get away from real easy. Okay. Well, you actually just answered this question. We got a question from James that kind of talks about how Gavin, Joe, and Mike always talk about playing lots of pots in position while you're deep stacked and mixing it up. And you kind of said you did that with the king 5, and you're kind of mixing it up in position, learning from them.
Exactly. I'm trying to do that a little bit more. I don't seem to have a lot of success flopping really huge hands when I call with trash in position, but you're not really supposed to. The overwhelming likelihood is that you won't hit something big. So, and they're better decision makers, obviously, than most of us out there that are aspiring poker players, and they're going to be able to make much better decisions. And I obviously am not at that point yet, so I don't do it quite that often. But it's good advice to try. It's
right. Well, experience. I mean, the more
you
you play, the more hands you see, the more flops you see, the better you'll get.
Right.
I mean, it's just obvious. Now, okay, I have a question for you here. First of all, the question from William Sanders here out of Chicago. He says, hey, first of all, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Okay?
No problem.
Is the circuit still on good terms with Mike Matusow?
Absolutely. Mike Matusow is hopefully going to be a part of the show in a capacity that's between 5 and 10 minutes, something a little more, that sort of helps him grow his brand, that Mike Matusow has sort of become.
Read bearable, okay? Go ahead.
But yeah, 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll let him rant and have some fun for those people out there who really enjoy that side of poker, the guys who talk a lot of trash and all that. But I'm on good terms with Mike. I had a long conversation with him at the WPT Championship where we sort of hammered everything out that was right and wrong with the relationship for the radio show. And I think he understands where I'm coming from, trying to host a show. I have a real job to do. If he makes bad radio, he gets to go back and play poker. If I make bad radio and bad videos, then I get fired. And I don't just get to go to poker.
Right.
As you can see, I play too nitty to make a living out of it.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering here now. 45 minutes with Matusow, a little too much. I mean, it's a little overwhelming, isn't it?
It could be. There were days, if you go back and listen to some of the archived shows with the Bay 101 Final Table Preview show, the Bay 101 with Gus Hansen. It's really dependent on his mood, how he's doing, how he's playing. He didn't play well at the beginning of the WPT Championship, so he wasn't really all that tolerable when he came in. But when he's on, Mike's a great guy and a great host. But yeah, it's not consistent enough.
Okay, I'm going to put you on one more spot here. Gavin Smith and Joe Seabach, I know they have a big bet for the World Series, right?
Indeed, they do.
Who's going to win?
Wow.
Come on, man. Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? Seabach last year did better in the World Series, and Gavin has already convinced himself that somehow, I did a Tale of the Tape article in Card Player.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, where I sort of, and Gavin somehow, even though I think I was very balanced, Gavin still felt like I had somehow thrown a diss at him, and that I was saying that Joe would win. So why not go with Joe? I mean, if Gavin's already convinced, I think Joe's going to have a better record this year.
So Joe's going to win.
Come to play.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
Gavin will have to dress
Gavin
up.
is the WPT Player of the Year, just so that's out there. World Poker Tour Player of the Year. I
So
hear he
Gavin's
gets a
gonna have to dress
jacket.
up like a girl or something like that.
Well,
Or superhero?
the first day they dress up as anything, and then for the entire rest of the main event, they have to dress up as superheroes, assuming they get through day one. Day one is anything, and apparently Joe Seabox is going to have to dress up as Robin Hood in honor of Barry Greenstein being the Robin Hood of poker and being his dad. So,
Well, I'm sure you'll keep us updated during the World Series
absolutely.
how they're doing.
No question.
Well, this is the last hand, so why don't we follow the last hand? Buttons
All
in
right.
seat 2. Seat number 6, RB's going to be under the gun. He's first act. And George is posted. We're a little short right now.
Oh, come on, Joe. Double up, buddy. I don't want to have to give you gas money.
He's got enough for gas. Well, maybe half a tank the way gas is right now.
I feel like I should be paying. Oh, that's it? He's done?
He's done. That's it. And we're going to see this. Well, Gus is going to raise it up with 7-8 suited in the small blinds.
Little rub of the nose there.
And he's going to, well, it's heads up here. The pot is $60. 7-8 versus 7-8. Pretty exciting. And both players still have 8 high. Flop is ace-6-3, a couple of clubs. And it goes check, check. Turns an ace. And unless somebody bets here, this is going to get chopped up. But
Here we go.
George is
Stacks.
going to put some money in and steal the last pot. And, he's been kicking ass all night, and he takes it. Well, that
That's
is
it,
the
huh?
last hand of the night. You can catch Scott Huff on the circuit. Go to cardplayer.com. Check out the circuit. It's kind of a great little radio show where you interview all the great players. of
All
poker.
the great players. Anyone we can get in there. And Ivy's coming soon for all you people out there that keep emailing me, get Phil Ivy. It's not that easy. He's a busy guy, and he likes to play poker better than he likes to talk to me. Would be
Yeah,
my
we're
guess.
trying to get
We're gonna
Ivy too, and it's tough for us.
Oh, it's not easy. You know what? Pass them our way if you get them.
Well, tomorrow night we've got the Whale Night, 25-50 blinds, no limit hold'em, intense action. For David Tuckman, for Scott Huff, for Bart Hansen, and for everybody else, thank you. Until next time, see you later.
It's here. It's big. And it's closer than you think. It's not a tournament. It's what you don't see on TV. The cash is real. The stakes are high. They bet big. They win big. They lose big. High stakes live action poker. Live at the bike. Watch it live on the web or play it if you dare at the Bicycle Casino right here in Los Angeles.